everyone. Welcome back to the Let's Talk Movies podcast with me, John, and David, aka Shamrock Balls. And today we're here to actually talk about one of my favorite films, especially when I was growing up, The Mask from 1994, starring Jim Carrey, a personal favorite of both David and I. And David, what do you think of The Mask? When did you first come to this film?
Well, John, first of all, I just want to commend you for doing this movie for us
And why is that?
because it's nothing any American with balls of steel wouldn't do for his podcast community.
I was wondering which quote you were going to go with today.
Yeah, I was anticipating that. I was like, John's not going to get this one. He's going to think I'm going to go for like smoking or somebody stop us from doing this podcast.
I had party time. P-A-R-T-Y, because I gotta. I thought that's what you were going to go with.
Why should we do this podcast? Because P-A-R-T-Y.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, the first time I seen The Mask, I seen The Mask on initial release, John, in 1994. So I was around 12 years of age. I was 12 in the summer of 94. I was turning 13 in the autumn, in the fall. And, I have actually seen this movie the most of any other movie in the cinema.
Really? So it's funny. I was wondering this because I remember you saying that you didn't want to go see his first film earlier this year, 1994, which was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So I guess the fandom kind of built up in those few months there. Huh?
Do you know, I was thinking about this earlier because I didn't get a chance to go back and listen to our Ace Ventura podcast, which I should have, because I know we had talked a lot about Jim Carrey and his rise in the 90s and I had mentioned about the impact that Jim Carrey had on young people watching his comedy, starting with Ace Ventura. And I was a very big fan of Jim Carrey in that period. But I don't know if I went to see this movie because of Jim Carrey. And what I mean by that is that I can't remember if it's a case of me just seeing the trailer and going, that looks good, or even making the connection, maybe until I was actually in the cinema and went, oh, that's the guy from Ace Ventura. I can't remember that part of going to see the movie. Now, at that particular time, I was like going to the cinema like every weekend or every other weekend. Me and my friends were always going to the cinema to watch something, even if like it was a case of just traveling to the cinema and just picking a movie out. And which was the case for that I think that was the summer of 94. And so I guess I went to watch it based on the trailer and absolutely fell in love with this film. And I remember I must have seen this, John, 4, 5, or 6 times in the cinema. I think that's the amount of times I've seen this. And the only reason I can think of why I went back and watched it again and again was, firstly, it was because I loved the film. And I was like, I mean, there's certain movies that I've only been to the cinema to see a few times. One of them was Jurassic Park. I remember seeing that in 93 twice. And I'm trying to think of other movies I've seen a couple of times in the cinema. There's not been very many, but part of the reason why I went to see this again and again is that every time I went back to watch something at that cinema, it was like, oh, The Mask is still showing. Is there anything else on? And I was kind of like, no. I'll go and see The Mask again. So it was kind of one of those things where it was half of me saying I want to watch it again, and another half of me looking at what else was there and going, I don't fancy any of those other movies. Though funny enough, when I was watching the making of, like, Forrest Gump was in the cinema at the same time as this, and I didn't go and see that. And I
What about
don't
Speed
understand
too?
why.
I think Speed was in cinema at that time also. If I'm right, summer of 94.
It might have been. I remember seeing that on television, on Sky Movies, one of the premieres. I remember seeing it then. It could be as well as that some of these movies might have been a 15 as well, a 15.
Yeah, and you were 12 years old at the time, so that's also like, what's going to appeal to you? Like, Forrest Gump's not going to really probably appeal to you at 12, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to think about this. I was like, why would I not have went to see Forrest Gump? Because I remember watching that on Sky Movies and loving that film when it came out. It must have been maybe a year later, 95 maybe, and absolutely loving Forrest Gump. And the only thing I could think of, John, is that maybe the name put me off, because at that age you're very impressionable about, if you haven't seen the trailer, like, what does that mean? What's the name of that movie? And also because, and this is something that, I've only learned kind of recently through listening to other movie podcasts, is that in America, you guys aren't as strict with your certificates for movies.
No.
Isn't that right?
What do you mean, like our ratings?
Your ratings, you're not as strict.
Well, yeah, we have you guys have a 15, which is I think your R, but we have PG, PG-13, R, and that's it. There's also G, but G is very, very rare, which is like, anyone can get in, anyone can get into a PG-2, PG-13, and then like I never had trouble getting into an R movie when I was a kid. There's two local theaters by me. They would just let us in. I mean, it did not ever matter. I never ever had a problem getting into an R-rated movie when I was a kid. I don't know how strict they are now. Like I turned 17 in 2009, which is to get
Mhm.
into an R-rated movie. So I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Over here, we had like, and the certificates have evolved over the years. So we had like U, and then we have PG, and then the 12 certificate was brought in for Batman. And then you had 15 as well, and then you had 18. But the difference is over here is that if you are below that age, if you don't look that age, they will stop you from getting in. You are not allowed
Really?
in. Yeah, and I know we've talked about certificates over our previous episodes, and I probably haven't explained that because I just assumed that it was the same in the States until I was listening to another podcast where I actually heard that they know, like if I listen to a horror podcast, I've heard like American podcasters saying they went to watch, like, for example, Friday the 13th Part 4 when they were 8, 9, 10 years of age. And like over here, you would not be allowed in to see that. I think the cinema could lose their license if they were caught letting children in to watch 18 movies. Same applies for 15s. So it could be some of those movies could have been 15s. And that is maybe the reason. So I
Ah.
know, fine, if I went to a cinema, if I went to the box office and I said at 12 years of age and said, a 15 movie, can I go and watch that? They wouldn't sell me the ticket. They would be, sorry, that's a 15, pick something else.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very okay, that makes sense then. I didn't realize it was that strict there, especially like here it's just like it might be more strict now, like an AMC or like Regal, which are like the big theater chains here in the US. They might have been more strict, but like the local theaters, they never cared. Like I remember spending like a day in the movie theaters. I could just go movie to movie and I paid for one ticket and like they didn't really bother.
Yeah, well, is that you one ticket, go in, watch a movie, leave again, then the next queue goes in. And as I say, I remember one time me and my cousin going, I was staying in his house one night, and we decided to go to the cinema, and we went down and we seen Sleepers was on, and we seen Robert De Niro in the poster, and we thought, we looked at each other and went, this must be a gangster movie. And I
Oh
remember
wow.
that. Yeah, I remember thinking that was a 15. I might have been a 15, and we weren't 15. And I remember asking for it was a night show on too, asking for tickets for that, and we couldn't believe it. They give them it. We chanced our arm. They give us the tickets. They let us in, and I remember sitting there, and one of our teachers was sitting in front of us from the school.
Oh my god.
And we were sitting behind him. As a matter of fact, the teacher taught in my school. He was my science teacher, but my cousin knew him because he taught my cousin Gaelic, right? Gaelic football. But we were sitting there, and it starts off. I know this is, listen, I'm going off topic here, but
Oh
it's a
yeah.
funny it's a funny story. We were like thinking this is like once upon a time in America. This is gonna start. There are gonna be kids and they're gonna become gangsters. You know what I mean? This is gonna be an epic. But as it rolled on and they're in the home and we're sitting there and we're going to ourselves like, where's this going? The next thing is Kevin Bacon brings him down into the basement and one of the kids goes, what do you want from us? And Kevin Bacon says, a blowjob.
So
me, and my,
direct.
yeah, me and my cousin just looked at each other and we're like, what? What the hell? There's our teacher sitting in front of us. We're all just sitting there watching it. So that's probably the reason, a long-winded way of telling you, that's the reason why I probably went back and watched The Mask again and again and again. But I had no complaints about going back and watching it again and again because I absolutely adored this movie. So what about you? When was the first time you seen it?
So I can't actually remember the exact first time I saw this movie, but funny enough, today that we're recording is April 1st, April Fool's Day. My birthday is tomorrow, April 2nd. So back in the 1990s, I was very young. So I remember specifically my dad buying this VHS for me for my 4th birthday, which would have to be 1996. So a little while after the movie came out, I must have loved the movie already because that's the reason why he bought it for me. But I just remember specifically getting the VHS and then watching the VHS so many times. I still remember all the trailers on the VHS. I remember the trailer for Michael, Dumb and Dumber, Mortal Kombat. I'm pretty sure it was the first one. And I remember the ads for Pop Secret and Ghost something, Coast to Coast. I can't remember what the hell his name was. He had like a TV show in the 90s, the animated guy. Ghost something, Coast to Coast. Space Ghost, Ghost to Ghost. That was what it was.
Right.
But I can remember all that and just wearing the hell out of this VHS. But I specifically remember that, and I watched this movie so many times growing up. But I never did get to see it in theaters. But still, just this Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber were just huge influences on me when I was growing up in the 1990s.
Yeah, and same as myself, John. I actually have the Mask sticker book.
Really?
Yeah, and I've kept it, and I never got to fill the whole booklet. You know, like they do. They're called over here. They do like the football sticker book as well, and
Yeah, like
there's a,
binders, like full of cards and stuff like that.
yeah, there's a Stranger Things one actually out at the minute, and I bought my daughter it, and you get what are they called, Panini.
Okay.
Yeah, and that they used to do like movies and stuff, and I had a Mask one, and I still have it. I remember like it was in a box for years, and I still have it. And I came across it when I moved house, and I put it in another box, and it's still up in the attic. And it's been one of those keepsakes that I've just kept through it all these years because I absolutely love the sticker book. It pains me that I never actually got to fill it all because it was really weird. It was one of those situations where it was kind of like not very many shops sold the stickers, so it was hard to get them.
Get them all, right? Now probably retro shops might have them all in one nice collection.
Ah, man, I must actually go on eBay
Someone's got them.
see if I can finish that book off after 30 years. But the big kid of me coming out. But yeah, but I was the same as you. So there was Ace Ventura, and then there was kind of like The Mask, and then as I say, as the 90s went on, 94, of course, Jim Carrey then had Dumb and Dumber, which I think I may have seen on VHS for the first time. I may have rented it, and then the following year it was like he's the Riddler in Batman Forever. So, and then the following year it was like Cable Guy, and we were all fans of the Cable Guy as well, even though it wasn't critically, or I don't even think it was commercially as successful as anything he had done.
They spent a lot of money on that movie. Yeah, it wasn't very commercially successful. It was too dark for a lot of people, they said, but I also love the Cable Guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just didn't get the humor, but
it's dark.
It's dark, and us as teenagers, we loved it. So that whole period, as you say, with Jim Carrey was absolutely golden for him.
Oh yeah, and when I was a kid, The Mask was my favorite. Now it's Dumb and Dumber, but when I was a kid, I was obsessed with this movie. I love Stanley Ipkiss. Like I said, when you're that young, it's like very impressionable. Like Cameron Diaz, like Tina was like the first girl I ever had a crush on, and it's like incredible, like how much this movie, like when I go back and watch the movie now, I can just quote the entire thing. I know everything that's coming. But this is probably the first time where I noticed it, like a little bit more of the filmmaking prowess of the movie over like just be enjoying all the jokes and stuff. Like actually watching it for, more of a critical eye, like we like to do on the show.
Yeah, more than just a casual kind of watch that you're doing because you enjoy the movie,
Yeah.
just as a film. Like Batman 89 would talk about, you just fired on as a bit of a comfort blanket, maybe, you know what I mean? Because you just want to visit, that movie again. And yeah, like I have to say, like The Mask was one of my favorite movies growing up in the 90s when I was making, like, even back then I was making lists of my favorite movies, and The Mask was there. Probably was my favorite Jim Carrey movie, maybe that or Ace Ventura at that particular time would have been my favorite Jim Carrey movies. But I might have picked Ace Ventura edge at the time. I can't remember because at that time I just found Ace Ventura to be one of the funniest movies that I had ever seen, and whereas this is more obviously in the vein of, I remember, like, a Dick Tracy, not as dark as Batman. It reminded me more of Dick Tracy. Funny, I always remember one time coming out of the viewings I watched in the cinema and thinking, I would love to see The Mask team up with the Joker.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a very similar, like, over-the-top personality, and obviously the prosthetics work great.
Yeah, the prosthetics are absolutely amazing. And of course, that suited Jim Carrey.
Yeah, they saved money on that.
He saved money on that, and like this is almost like Jim Carrey's played so many iconic roles throughout his career, and The Mask is definitely up there. But when they talk about actors being born to play certain characters, this is it.
Yeah. What's the director's name? Chuck Russell said that when they wrote the script and they presented him the script, he's like, "Oh, I love it," and he's like, "I hope so because I wrote it for you." Like, I thought that was such a great thing to say. Like, imagine having and it's honestly impossible to imagine anyone else but Jim Carrey playing Stanley Ipkiss, because it really is like the two sides of his personality. That really nice guy that everybody likes, but then he can turn it on and he can be just an absolute cartoon character.
Yeah, not only that, I think this kind of film was the kind of seeds of the nucleus of showing that side of Jim Carrey, that actor side of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Rather than just the crazy, zany, over the top Jim Carrey, which everybody was more familiar with maybe some of the characters he had played in Living Color and some of the movies he had even been in before that where he had bit parts. And then Ace Ventura, he was just playing a character, but he's totally over the top for the whole 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This, when he didn't have the mask, he was playing that more of a sensitive, down on his luck type of guy who you could empathize with. And then when he put the mask on, he becomes this kind of superhero or anti-hero that you get behind because of the bad stuff that has happened to him throughout the movie. You're rooting for him. You know what I mean? To get a bit of payback for some of the people that have wronged him throughout the movie.
Oh yeah, and it does stand out between Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura because both of those characters are. I mean, Ace Ventura is very smart, but he's also an idiot. And in Dumb and Dumber, it's Dumb and Dumber. He's an absolute moron, and he never really learns anything from that. But in this movie, he has a character arc. Like he starts in one place, and the mask teaches him more lessons to the point where he doesn't need the mask anymore at the end of it. And if you're right, it gets to him to show off the dramatic chops that he would kind of become known for later in his career, his second career, where mainly people think in the 90s he was just over the top comedy. But I mean, when he does have the mask on, he gets to show off the comedic chops. But Stanley Ipkiss is a sensitive. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's a real nice guy, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, trying to do the right thing. And
I think we're nice guys, right? We can relate to Stanley Ipkiss.
Yeah, well, I try to be, I can relate to the mask as well.
I mean, I think we all have that side of us. We're all wearing masks, aren't we, David?
well, that's the philosophy, isn't it? Everybody's got two sides of their personality, and everybody's got this inner desire that they would like to bring out, but they can't. They conform to society, because in the eyes of society, you want to be seen to be conforming to societal norms. You know what I mean? And that's the whole point of the movie. Is like he's not conforming to societal norms. And it brings out this wild side to him. And not only that, it also brings out this kind of romantic, repressed, and it's mentioned in the movie, a repressed romantic, this romantic side that he has that he can't kind of like express.
Right?
Yeah, because he's a bit socially awkward. And when he has the mask, he's not socially awkward anymore. He's fun and he's romantic. He's sexy. You know what I mean? He's all these things when he puts the mask on. Whereas like you see him kind of lumbering around Cameron Diaz before he has the mask on. And you're right. And I think she says to him in the movie as well, it's not the mask, it's you. It's the person behind the mask. And I think I was going to touch on it when we got to it, but I'll mention it now so I don't forget. When he throws the mask away at the end into the river and he kisses Cameron Diaz and he shouts smoking up into the sky, then it's telling you he's still the same guy. He didn't need a mask. The mask is still in him. That character's still there.
He doesn't need the mask anymore. He doesn't need that safety blanket anymore.
Yeah. I know you're saying about being nice guys, and I'm saying I can relate to the mask. I do have to say that my daughter and her mum was watching The Mask last year, and I got a message from them saying that they think that I look like The Mask when Jim Carrey has the mask on, only a flesh-toned version.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. When I was watching it too, I thought that like you do because you shave your face and everything, and you got a thin face, David. So like,
big head.
Yeah. So the cheeky prosthetic over his face does look like you, except it's more natural. Doesn't look like it's stuck on.
I know. Well, I'll be honest with you. I did have a shave intentionally so I could bring that story up to see if you thought the same thing. And I take it as a compliment. It's fine. When I did have her back in the 90s, as a few people did say I did look a bit like Jim Carrey. So I don't know if that means anything.
I mean, hey, at least you looked a lot like one of your heroes. You guys both have those like tall, slanky bodies.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't move as much as I could back in the 90s, or
Yeah, that guy was. He's like Jello. It's incredible how well he moves. I mean, and they hired the best effects team, which the effects do look really good. Like they hired Industrial Light and Magic because, that's one thing. Some effects have aged so well, and I think this movie is one of them. While other movies have aged absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There's a few shots in the movie that are a bit dodgy, but I think on the whole, I think it looks fantastic. I think you're right. I think that because of how rubbery Jim Carrey's face is. Sorry, my dog is dreaming and she's wagging her tail. She's lying sleeping and her tail's wagging.
She's dreaming about the mask.
She must have hired just the one up. Jesus, can you imagine her with a mask on? Jesus.
Right? Worse Milo.
Be worse than bloody Milo. But yeah, I think a lot of it holds up fantastic, and a lot of it has to do with, as you said, how rubbery Jim Carrey is, how kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's eluding me. Just how he moves his body. Do you know what I mean?
Animated?
I animated, yes, I animated his body is and the way he can contort it and all those type of things. And as you say, in the making of, Chuck Russell actually says that. He says he saved us an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time because some of the things he was doing, we realized that we didn't have to film it in a way that we need a digital shot or spend the money in doing a digital shot. But going back before Chuck Russell got involved, the nucleus of The Mask was that New Line Cinema was looking a new horror franchise after they deemed the Elm Street franchise to be over, and they decided to buy the rights of The Mask. And because the actual comic book of The Mask was very violent, it was The Mask was basically getting revenge, as I said earlier, on people who wronged him, and they seen this as maybe a successor to Freddy Krueger and an ongoing series for them, but in the horror genre. And that's why they hired Chuck Russell, because Chuck Russell directed A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which is one of my favorite Elm Streets.
It's number 2 for me, only behind the first one. And I you can actually, when you watch it, you can see some of the similarities. And it's the thing with Chuck Russell, like he just always kind of feels like when you read through his filmography, I think this and Nightmare 3 stand out, but he does kind of feel like a director for hire. But he also seemed very passionate about The Mask and The Mask cartoon, which is awesome because I was a fan of The Mask. I've never been the biggest comic book fan, like going back and reading comic books, but I did go back and read The Mask comic books because I was just such a big fan of this. So
Yeah.
I always try and imagine if this was that like darker tone, if this could have been a different kind of, because you don't really watch this the first time, at least I didn't, as like a superhero kind of a movie, even though he does say I could be a superhero. Like you never think of it like that, though, at least for me, until I realized after the fact.
Yeah, no, well, I always kind of felt as if now the film, as I said earlier, is very comic bookish, you know what I mean, in the same vein of the Dick Tracy movie that came out, and of course the Batman movies that came out before then. Although the Batman movies to me were darker and a wee bit more serious.
Yeah, this is very colorful, like Dick Tracy.
Very exactly. And then when I found out it was based on a comic book, I've read the first one, and it is very violent, a bit more maintenance, and dark in a sense that I think in that first comic that Stanley Ipkiss dies. He's murdered, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he kills people like violently with a laugh, like the Joker in a way.
Yeah, and this is one of these series that I wouldn't mind actually seeing remade, John, in the more vein of that violent comic book, with those kind of sensibilities, maybe like in a Judge Dredd type of way, But it was Chuck Russell that actually, when they started writing the script, he says they just couldn't do it like that. They couldn't make it scary. They couldn't make it violent, like in that way. He thought that this would work best as a comedy, and that is why. And he thought of Jim Carrey, and as you said at the beginning of the podcast, him and the screenwriter. He told the screenwriter, write this for Jim Carrey, and the screenwriter was like, who? Because Chuck Russell was a very big fan of In Living Color, and the screenwriter wasn't aware of who Jim Carrey was.
Yeah, I mean, and then you go look at it on In Living Color, and you see like Fire Marshal Bill and all those characters. And you're like, oh my god, no, this is perfect. And they wrote a character I could definitely see somebody watching In Living Color and writing for.
Yeah, and again, to your point about using the ILM and the special effects and things like that, like it just feels as if this movie just came along at the right time. It's weird. We're coming off the back of Terminator 2. We're coming off the back of Jurassic Park. It's starting that kind of digital age of visual effects. But we're not that far into it where everything is being done by computer graphics. So there's that nice blend and not an overuse of the visual effects, but enough in there to be pushing the genre forward. Some of the effects that we're doing with like Jim Carrey turning into the dog and things like that, and his eyes popping out of his head and things like that, it doesn't stand out. And I as dated, and I think part of the reason as well why it doesn't stand out as dated is because it is a comic book. You can get away with it. It's supposed to be like a bit of a comic book.
And I think that works, and that's why I think like the combination of the effects is so good, because we still get a great production design. The sets themselves,
Yes.
Edge City feels like a unique city that we've never seen before, and we've never seen again. Actually doing that stuff makes this world feel realistic. Whereas nowadays you would just animate that, and I'd be very upset. But just thinking of like the Coco Bonga Club is something I've never seen before. I was so young and impressionable. I thought clubs like that existed. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
I've never seen one.
I think there's a club in Belfast called the Coco Bongo.
Is it this one?
I don't think it's this one. And I always wondered. I don't think I've even been in it. I've heard about it, and I'm wondering, was it named after this movie? It probably was. But yeah, Chuck Russell specifically mentioned about. I mean, I can't remember, but Ed City must come from the comics, but it was never really detailed. So it was him that lent his kind of idea of that it's something between the 40s and the 60s to the present day. So you can't pinpoint what era that is. And again, to me, that goes back to Batman. I might even go back to Blade Runner, but it goes back to Batman, where Batman has got that kind of 1940s flavor, 1940s feel about it, but it's blended with the late 80s technology. So you don't know what period it's in. And again, he's done it the same with this movie.
Yeah, very much so. It's not really any mention of the outside world other than in Edge City. Like, everybody in this world feels like they live here. So it creates a unique world where all these characters feel like it does still feel a little bit like some of the cars that they'll be driving. You'd be like, okay, that's like a 19. I like early in the movie when they're working on the pickup truck, you're like, that's a car from 1994 that they just happen to have. He drives a Honda Civic. Those little things stand out. But like the loaner car, like that looks like a 1940s car.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the film to me looks like a 90s movie, but it's not to the point where it takes me out of it. It does create this unique kind of world that you do go into, even though you can tell the film stock is 90s.
Yeah, exactly. It's you could always pinpoint that with your eyes. Like, it still looks like a 1994 film. Like, it still looks like it came out in that same run, but because of the way it's lit and everything, it feels very also unique, which I love about the movie, which I think it's a good time for us to get into the film, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Which we open on just on the mask itself, like they're a bunch of guys diving down into the sea. And we saw that it's Edge City, am I correct?
Yeah, well, can I ask first of all as well, that New Lane logo, John? People talk about. I love this kind of trivia because this ties into the nostalgia that we always talk about, and it's like when people see logos, if you see a logo of a movie, what movie does it remind you of, right? And this New Lane logo always reminds me of The Mask. What about you?
Dumb and Dumber. But yes, The Mask also. Like that whole run of like New Line films of the blue and black and white logo. It's funny, you're not going to recognize it for this, but I also think of Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
Yes.
They did it over here, but in the Region B releases, it's a different company.
Right. It's been years since I've watched them, so I can't even remember. But I know that at Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously, as I touched on there, New Line done that, but
they had a different logo then. They had the red and black.
Yeah, that one. I always remember Nightmare on Elm Street starting with that red and black kind of flickering. I can't remember what the sequels were like at the minute, but yeah. So this one here for me is always even if I see it in other movies, it's like, oh, The Mask is coming on, and then another movie starts. It's like, oh, it's not. So it starts with that, yes, and it comes up about the New Line Productions and Jim Carrey's name, and then it comes up Edge City. And it starts with the Edge City, and then underwater, where it shows you where the divers are. They're laying some new kind of pipeline, could be natural gas, and one of the divers sees this box, and he tries to open it up with his diver's knife. And again, when the mask actually drifts out, you can assume that because it's Loki, that it makes this chain snap, and the pipe comes down and traps the diver under the pipe. And you see the mask just kind of floating up, and it comes up The Mask. And one thing that always strikes me with this is that the water seems very clean.
Yeah, I always thought about the water, this opening sequence, because, like, first of all, you're not sure. We assume he's dead, but, like, they don't really show it. It just kind of lands on it. But, yeah, the water looks very clean. I always kind of look at how he's, like, digging through the rocks. And the sound effects here is the first thing that always kicks in. Like, right when the Mask logo comes up, like, that's the first time you get the hint of the score. But it's very prevalent throughout the entire film.
Yeah, well, I actually, you hear that score, the horns coming in, I think, when does it come in? I think it comes in even before it shows you Edge City. I think it comes in when it starts bringing up like New Line Productions and stuff. And then when you see The Mask, you hear some of the music kicking. But again, Randy Alderman, I think, does the score for this movie. He done Ghostbusters too. And I absolutely love it. Yeah, I absolutely. We've done Twins as well, so we did, yes. But I absolutely love the score to this movie.
Yeah, me too. I think the score fits this movie very, very well. I always thought it did, but even just like they would zoom in and like you would hear like the score start. I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm so nostalgic for it now, but I just notice it all throughout the film, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about when it comes up like New Lane Productions and you hear that. That's that's a whole soundtrack for you here. But
Yeah.
that's for the rest of the podcast. But yeah, that to me, I absolutely love it. And there's a bit of nostalgia of that for me. And just because we're starting with the music here, I have to say that he does a fantastic job. I would say it's probably better. Well, it is. It's better than his Ghostbusters score. And I love how he integrates through the score like superhero themes. He's got that kind of Viking kind of vibe going for it as well to do with the mask. And there's also some kind of like motifs of carnival motifs to do with the mask kind of goofing around. And then he's also got like Looney Tunes motifs as well running through it.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes that this was very influenced. You could tell by like Looney Tunes and I think 30s gangster films, just throughout the entire film, like with certain angles that they were going for and everything like that. And it creates a weird kind of combinations, a very original combination. I don't think there's been very many movies like The Mask.
No, definitely not. That's what makes it stand out to me. That's what makes it so unique.
Yeah, it's very much like it feels like an Artur's vision, whereas it's strange because Chuck Russell's like not like one of those kind of directors.
But I've probably seen more Chuck Russell movies than I realize. Though when you think about Nightmare on Elm Street 3, like the first two are more horror, even though the Elm Street series to me is horror fantasy. But the first two are definitely more of a horror vibe about them. Whereas when you get to 3, it certainly is more of a horror fantasy movie, and you can kind of see that within Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with the kind of visual effects that he was using in that third film. Freddy definitely becomes more of a shapeshifter in the third movie than he does in the previous two, even though we've seen him change a bit, in those earlier movies, but he becomes more of a shapeshifter. There's more of a fantasy feeling about the third movie, especially the way the kids can be dragged into a dream together and they've all got these magical powers, which ties then into The Mask when you see what he's doing with the mask.
Yeah, exactly. Because the mask has magical powers, which we'll see in as we get further into the film. But it's funny, we see the mask, but we have no idea what it is at the very beginning because then we cut to the bank where he works at.
Yeah, we go to the bank, and I love as well. There's like wee subtle hints about Stanley Ipkiss's personality through at the start of the film, and you see him with the concert tickets that you wanted.
Oh my God, I know, so desperate.
Yeah, but you see in his drawer, he's got Looney Tunes comics.
Oh yeah, this guy is a huge fan of Looney Tunes. More specifically, he's a big fan of the Tasmanian Devil, as we'll see.
Yeah.
Which actually fits right into his mask character.
Yeah, I've actually had Tasmanian Devil t-shirt. I should have worn it.
I have pictures of me with Tasmanian Devil t-shirts and hats. I was a big, probably because of this movie.
Yeah, I love the Tasmanian Devil. It was on what was the show it used to be on the Saturdays? It wasn't just the Tasmanian Devil. They used to do all different cartoons, but they had like it was the Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and all these other ones as well. Stuff. Yeah, but yeah, he's got these concert tickets for this girl. He's obviously got designs on, and she's pretty much using them because it's like, come a girlfriend, go, and because he is such a nice guy. Like she's working him, but she's using him. Oh, I've got this girlfriend. She's probably going to run another fella to this concert.
Who knows? But she knew what she was doing. She totally manipulated a nice guy. She knew he would say, "Yeah, no, you guys just go." So he basically pulled all these strings, and he doesn't even get to go to the concert.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's obviously Richard Jeni then comes over and consoles him, and Charlie, yeah. I'm not sure if he talks about going to the Coco Bongo Club yet, but the next thing is Cameron Diaz comes walking into the bank.
Our first introduction with that score kicking in right as she walks in, which is amazing as well. Right out of the rain, she's such a mess.
Yeah, and I love their faces when the cameras they do that dolly zoom, that Jaws dolly zoom, and they're just kind of
like they can't believe it, like knocks them right on their ass.
Then it zooms in the other way. They're like,
yeah, I told you, like Tina was my crush as a kid, and big reason why. This is our introduction to Cameron Diaz, the actress.
Yeah, she is absolutely beautiful in this movie. I think she was only like 20 or 21 years of age. To be at the time, she looked a hell of a lot older. And even now, I still don't think she looks 20 or 21.
No, the makeup really was like she looks younger in movies that came out like Charlie's Angels, Something About Mary came out years after this. She looks younger in those movies. Now she did, from what I understand, I heard the story. It's just a story. I don't know if it's true that she lost some weight after this movie because she does look like she's a little heavier here. That a
Mhm.
producer told her to lose weight, like kind of made her feel very self-conscious, and that kind of sucks. 'Cause she's gorgeous in this movie.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, I'm not going to say she wasn't my first crush. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say I really had a crush on her. I mean, she was a very beautiful looking woman, without a doubt. I found it strange that Robert Shea, who is the CEO of New Line Pictures, he wasn't fussed on her for this movie. He didn't want her. Chuck Russell had to beg him to put her in the film, and then because in the actual script, she was written as like a Marilyn Monroe type, a voluptuous kind of bombshell, and he didn't think that she looked like that, and he actually specifically asked for costumes to be made to give her a larger bust. And that surprised me.
I could see actually where they did do that in here because you do get drawn to her entire body shape, which usually that's not something that was her MO after this movie. I don't think she was ever written as like another complete bombshell. She's just always been a naturally beautiful woman.
Yeah, but she was a model, and they couldn't find anybody to play this part. I think they were after Anna Nicole Smith, and
Yes,
then
I
they
heard that.
yeah, and then they thought to themselves, well, maybe they'll get an African American woman. I think it was Vanessa Williams they decided to go for, and then they couldn't fit. Then they started doing like open casting calls, and then they interviewed her, but she didn't seem to be really fussed. She doesn't. She wanted to be an actress, but she wasn't that fussed bad, and they basically just had to talk her into it. And then they had to give her acting lessons. And here's the first controversial take, or maybe the only controversial take I have about this movie. To be honest with you, John, watching it again with the critical eye, I don't think she's very good in this.
She doesn't have a ton to do. Like, I mean, she's really a damsel in distress throughout the entire movie, and I mean, I think she's fine. I think I was more attracted to her beauty back in the day. So yeah, I kind of do agree with you. I don't think it's the most controversial take. She's not like the one of the main. Like, yeah, she has some great scenes. Like, I love her dancing scene with him. Like, I feel like that's really where she gets to show off.
Well, this is the thing, and this is a film, as I mentioned, I grew up with, you grew up with. You're kind of dazzled by Jim Carrey's performance, the special effects, how the film looks, and the thing is that she is very beautiful, and that's the point of Tina Carlisle. She's
Yeah,
supposed to be beautiful, and I think a lot of people were dazzled by her looks back then. But watching it again the other night, like you're saying, she doesn't have much to do. She is, to me, one of the stars of the movie, and those more sensitive type of moments that we were praising Jim Carrey for, watching her in them moments, I think she's terrible. I mean, she might be good, even when, I mean, I don't even know if it's probably not even her singing that song. So when she's
oh,
there
it's
to,
not. I
when
looked
she's
that up.
yeah, so when she's there to look good, that's what she's there to do. But from an acting point of view, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I just don't think she's very good in this film.
It's funny because like when she is acting in those sensitive scenes, I'm not necessarily. I guess I'm just paying more attention to Jim Carrey, and I think he handles those scenes just so well. I've seen her do that before. She's never been the greatest actress, Cameron Diaz. I mean, I've always said that the biggest flaw, if you've ever seen Gangs of New York, is her and
Mhm,
Leonardo DiCaprio are horribly miscast. I
mhm.
just don't in this movie. I guess it just doesn't bother me that much because I don't necessarily think of it even as her movie. It's really Jim
Mhm.
Carrey's vehicle, and everyone just kind of got to work around him. And I think she does a fine enough job. A lot of times she's just like when she that main scene, as long as she dances good and somebody else does sing that song, she's fine. And yeah, she blows me away. I guess with her looks, that's always what kind of drew me to her. Maybe I didn't
Yeah.
notice as much. Maybe that's just a personal thing with me.
Yeah. Well, I was the same until I watched it again on Sunday night. I was just kind of like watching those scenes, and there was always something kind of off about her, And we'll get to it, like in the prison where she was saying it's the man behind the mask,
Yeah.
Stanley Ipkiss, and I'm like watching this the other day. She's terrible, and I'd never realized it before until I was like watching it for the podcast. But anyway, we'll move on. As I say, so she's come in and she asks to speak with Stanley, and the only reason she's asking to sit and speak with Stanley is because that's the angle she can get from her handbag to put the camera on the bank vault, and of course he's totally and utterly, you know.
He's just blown away by her. He just wants her to open up an account. He's like putting the pencil in, I mean the pen and the pencil sharpener. He's just a
Yeah.
mess.
I love how he's looking for something in the drawers, and then the middle drawer opens and he can't close it, and he kind of hits it, and he's rubbing himself down, and he's like, savings and checkings and savings, and then she says about the tie, and he's like, it's supposed to be like a power tie, and she's like putting it out of his mouth, and also, and then she's just trying to kind of keep him talking, and while she's, sets the camera up and things like that. So, but I do love how that scene kind of like ends, where he's talking to her about the different bank accounts, and he says, or we could just take your money and throw it in a big mattress back there, and then it gives this big fake laugh at the end, like
just trying to schmooze her over, and she clearly isn't into him, but she's just manipulating him, because obviously she's with the Peter Green character of in this movie.
Yeah, and then obviously that moves on to the scene with Peter Green, who's playing Dorian.
I love Dorian.
Yeah, I liked him in this movie, and that's where he's talking about he's devising the plan. But you see the camera, then you see what she's up to with the camera, watching the bank vault, and he is discussing with the doctor. I don't know what his name is, because he calls him Doc later on. He says, "You're talking to the doctor."
I just figured that he's the doctor. He's being called a doctor as a joke, because like he's the guy who can pull this stuff off. He's the one that makes things happen. The doctor, like slang.
Yeah, but he's carrying out an operation, right? Which is the bank.
Oh, if he's a surgeon.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where we find out what he's up to, and he's basically going to rob the bank, and he's going to overthrow the current crime boss, which is Nico. And then he says,
I had in my notes, man, Dorian should not cross Nico.
No, definitely not. And that's what he says. This whole city will be our playground.
Yep. And I just want to comment on, before we go a little further, on two actors who were in this movie who I always just recognize them from this, Richard Jeni and Peter Green. Peter Green also the same year was in Pulp Fiction, but I'll always recognize him from The Mask. And his career kind of fell off after this. He was in a lot of movies in the early 90s. Apparently he had a drug problem. And then Richard Jeni, I've watched his stand-ups. He's really funny. He sadly killed himself in 2007, 49 years old.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't familiar with Richard Jeni, and he's very famous for a skit that he done about Jaws: The Revenge.
Of course.
I promised myself I wasn't going to bring Jaws up, but I wasn't even thinking about it. But until you mentioned it there, I watched the skit. I took offense. I took offense at the skit.
I took offense.
And then when I seen that he had done the skit many years later on YouTube, I was like, "That's the guy from The Mask." And then I don't know if I knew he had died by then, but it was very tragic to find out that he had actually killed himself. And then Peter Green, I agree with you. I knew him from The Mask, and then when I watched Pulp Fiction, I was like, "Oh, there's the guy from The Mask," and what an unbelievable year for him. He must have thought he'd really taken off.
Between that and then the next year, he has a pretty major role in The Usual Suspects too. So I was like, "Oh, he's on the up and up, and he's got the look to himself too, which is pretty nice." So it just didn't work out. Apparently, he had a pretty major drug problem, and that's why he's still around. He's still alive. Like you might see him pop up, but man, it looked like he was going to be like the next breakthrough guy.
Yeah, playing these kind of villains, these type of bad guys. He could have went on and done better things. So the next scene after that, Stanley goes to pick up his car, which he brought in for an oil change.
Yeah, I know. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and once again, he's being conned. They've started doing all sorts to his car, and ridiculous stuff that probably the car doesn't even need, just to con him out of more money. And he says, "Look, I need a car." He says, "I only brought it in for an oil change. I need a car for tonight." And he looks at the receipt. He says, "There's no price," and they say to him, "There will be."
There will be. Your transmission shot and your oil launch leaking. I love how that guy's just in the car. The whole engine's out. These guys look like the most sloppy looking mechanics. Very stereotypical trophy characters, but in the best way possible. And of course, I know you noticed that that's the Ghostbusters, right? The shop.
That's right. That's the interior of the Ghostbusters firehouse, which is on location in Los Angeles, I believe.
Yeah. The exterior is actually in New York City, I believe, while the interiors are in Los Angeles, which is cool to always see them reuse a little bit of Los Angeles sets every now and again. So you see that pop. Those doors are very, very unique.
Yeah, well, if you look to the left-hand side, you can actually see the lockers which the Ghostbusters use in the Ghostbuster movies, where they've hang their uniforms up.
I guess that's where these guys hang their uniforms up right before they rip off somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And so they say to him, bring around the loner. Stanley's like, the loner? And then, of course, then that goes to our first. I think it's our first scene at the Coco Bongo show, and I love this. I say this all the time. Actually, see when he pulls up with the cars or those people out for a night out. I'm assuming like high class kind of like club. You know what I mean? The Coco
Yeah,
Bongo
look,
club.
I mean, it's got a rope and everything, and you're even with a ticket, I guess you're not guaranteed to get in, which is crazy.
Yeah, and there this banner pulls up, smoke and all coming out of the exhaust. And I love how he gets out and he gives the key to the valet, is that what they're called? To take
Yeah.
take the car away. And it won't budge. He helps push it. He helps push it along. And he's like, this is one of my favorite lines, is like, it's a classic.
It's a classic.
A classic. Yeah, so he basically meets with Charlie, and Charlie's got two girls and everything lined up. And you see Dorian and one of his henchmen at the door, and you see Charlie saying to him, "Hey, yo," he's I can't remember his name, but he gives him a lot of money to let him in. And if Jim Carrey, again being the gentleman, lets them go first, but he puts the cordon back so Jim Carrey can't get in, or Stanley can't get in. I love how he's like, "See all on the inside," and he goes to turn it, and there's the cord, and he goes, mistake, and he goes through, and of course he's thrown out. Don't cross the lane. Never cross the lane. I love when they're carrying him, John, and you hear him saying, well, Dorian actually says, that's what's great about this movie. They don't know each other yet.
No.
Nope. And Dorian's like, lose him.
Which, by the way, did you notice the editing error?
Oh, I think I have noticed it in the past. Refresh my memory.
When he says lose him, he actually says lose him before he says lose him again. When they zoom in on him, he says lose him from a distance. When they're out, you can see him say lose him, and you can actually even hear it. And then they zoom in on him saying lose him, so he says it twice in the movie. It's an editing mistake, and I've always noticed. Well, only because I've seen it a million times, but now I can't not see it.
My friends are on the inside.
Lose them.
Hey, come on now. My friends are on the inside.
Lose them.
Hey, come on now.
Yeah, so it's either that two cameras running, or it's a different take and they haven't spliced it together properly.
No, they must not realize. They probably thought no one's going to be looking at Dorian here because Jim Carrey's in the foreground while he's just in the background, like supposedly just leading. But you could just see him look up and go lose him. But it's so quiet in the regular one. Then they zoom in on him saying it, so you probably don't notice unless you look for it.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that. I thought there was something else that I may have noticed, and I was like, "Is there something?" But no, I've never noticed that. I'm gonna look at that every time I watch it.
You won't never not see it because it's the exact. I think if they had two cameras running, because it's the exact same face. Like he literally looks up, cigarette smoke coming out of his mouth and everything. So I think it's just two cameras running, one over here and one dead on.
Yeah, one close shot, and then long
wide shot.
Wide shot. Yeah, so I was trying to think of wide shot. But yeah, I love how you hear Jim Carrey saying, "I'm a bleeder." He throws him down, and when he stands up, a car goes past and he gets spliced, and then to top it all off, there's Tina gets out of a car where he's standing absolutely soaked. And I love that. Like, she's like, "Mr. Ipkiss." And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, just catching the air. And the guy pulls up with the loner. And he's like, "Sir, I got your car." And he pretends like that's not my car. And he's like, "Well, it's your ticket." And I love how he says to him, "Okay, I'll take it, but I'm very disappointed."
Yeah, trying to play this one off like it's gonna work.
Yeah. And then, of course, that brings us to the bridge. And look, as I say, it is a comic book movie. I think Chuck Russell said that he wanted to make it very comic bookish, but to make it real. And this is the one part of the movie that never, ever rang true to me, is like, and it's all just done for laughs and gags, and it's done like an actual cartoon, as in when the car breaks down and he gets out and he kicks it and it just falls apart and the wheels kind of, deflate. That is literally just taken from a cartoon.
Everything falls off the car. I mean, even has the sound effects of it like dying like right in front of it. Just like it makes no sense. I always actually that doesn't bother me as much as I don't know how that looks like a person out in the water that he goes after.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you think it does look like a person?
I never thought it did. That's why I was always very thrown off by it. But they're also very zoomed out.
As I say, many years since I've seen this, John, and I don't know what I thought the first time I seen it, but I do think they play a trick. It's like the head is like moving. It does look like somebody's going like that, and then he's kind of like that somebody down there? Now, I don't think it's realistic enough to say it looks like a person's in trouble.
Like for you
But
to go running in there, like to go and try like get soaking wet like this right now.
yeah, I don't think there's enough of that. But they do play a trick that it's moving back and forward, where it's really not, just to make you think that there's something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was one thing I always like. I don't know. Maybe that's like another thing we're just supposed to buy, and I wouldn't personally go running in there for that. I'd be like, if he's not it doesn't look like a human enough for me to go running in and dive into the cold water right now.
Yeah, but you're obviously not as nice as Stanley Ipkiss.
I thought I was as nice as Stanley.
And yeah, he dives in then and he pulls it out, and there's like paper around it, and he takes it off, and he's about to put it on. It's almost like
It
know what it's
draws
like?
him.
It draws him, but that's what I think about the mask kind of moving when he first sees it. It's calling for him. It's almost like it's calling for someone to take it.
I think that's definitely one thing. I think that's even what drew that guy to go open up the to try and open up to begin with. Why would he even try that if that's not what he's down there to do? I think the mask has something that draws you to it. Because I mean, you see the thing kind of go across the inside of the mask with the sound effect and everything.
And he goes to put it on there and then in the water. Only the next thing is the police torches come down and they say, "Hey you, what are you doing down there in the water?" And he's like, "I'm looking for my mask." Got it. And that's why he brings it home, because obviously, like, if you read between the lines, the police probably give him a lift home or something. That's what I'm assuming. So he has the mask with him the whole way.
Yeah.
And that's why then he goes walking up in the apartment landing and he's soaking. And then Mrs. Peeman comes out.
Oh my God, I love that. That's what you are, Ipkiss, a big nothing.
You know what, Mrs. Peeman? What? And he's like, and she's like,
so bad.
and that's what you are, Ipkiss, a big nothing. And he's like, and it's when he closes the door. Everybody does this in their life, John.
Oh yeah,
one time or another, yeah, where there's you want to say something or you can't think of it, or you know you shouldn't. And as soon as he closes the door, he says, "Aren't you due back at the laboratory to get your belts tightened?" And he's like, "I should have said that."
Yep.
And then this is when we first see into the private life of Stanley Ipkiss. We go in, we see he's got Milo the dog, his faithful companion, and you see like as well he puts on the television and he's watching cartoons, and he's even got pictures of like cartoon characters on the walls.
He loves Looney Tunes, it seems like. So big Tasmanian devil guy. He's got to like literally like if you brought a girl home, he'd have to explain like, yeah, no, I'm just a big Tasmanian devil guy. And then he's just watching VHS tapes of it.
Yeah, well, listen, that's of the time. You know, I think DVD was in its infancy when this movie was filmed, so I can relate to that, having those square televisions and the VHSs.
Yeah, I remember that very much myself as well. But it's funny. It's the first thing he does when he gets home. He's like, barely changes his clothes. He just puts that on and starts laughing at it. Like he needs that pick me up.
Yeah, he needs that release because after the day he's had, you know, he needs something to kind of unwind, and that's the first thing that he goes to. And then, of course, he switches it over, and Mrs. Peeman shouts at him to turn it down, and I like how he's like, "Yes, Mrs. Peeman." He switches it off, and there it is, Dr. Newman talking about his new book.
The masks we wear.
Yes, we wear. I love how he's like, "Yes, Wendy, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking."
And then I love it when Jim Carrey goes and looks in the mirror with it, like, and does the same exact line.
But he does the same thing. He's like, metaphorically speaking. But then, he goes to put on that. It goes to suck to his face, and he's like, "Yeah, right." He's like, "What's going on with this?" And that is when he turns around and he sees that glow you talked about, John, again. And this time he puts it on. And what do you think that first time when he puts that mask on?
Scared the hell out of me a bunch when I was a kid. Like I always found this scene. This is, I guess, where Chuck Russell's horror direction kind of comes in, because it is scary and the effects are scary too, because it looks like it's choking his face, and then when he scratches it, it leaves marks behind. And obviously the screaming doesn't help either to help, and the score, everything, the thunder and lightning. It's a horror scene.
Yeah, 100%, because it's one of those things is that, like I say, it was so long ago since I first seen this movie, like yourself, but you were very young at the time, but I seen it so many times. A lot of the stuff in this movie, I can't remember what I thought the first time I seen it.
Yeah,
but when I was watching, so when I was watching this again the other night, that crossed my mind too. I was like, this is a scary scene, because Stanley doesn't know what's happening to him. He doesn't know if he's going to die, and he's squealing and screaming for help.
Yeah, where's Mrs. Peepin on that one?
She's too busy putting that green shit on her face. So she is in the other room.
She doesn't even hear this. She can hear the TV just fine.
Right enough. I never thought of that before. Maybe she just thinks it says TV again. I don't know.
Yeah, she's probably just like, screw it, I'm not yelling again.
Yeah. And as I say, like you say, he starts spinning round and round, and you can hear him kind of making all these weird noises from behind the sofa. And I love how when he first spins around and he grabs the bedpost and just stops, and he's like smoking. I mean,
Smoking.
what an introduction! What an entrance for a movie character.
Yep. I mean, you don't expect it to come, and the score kicks in. Like, yeah, we just came off this horrific scene, and now we're in for the pure comedy and fun.
Yeah, and I think is this the scene where he says about this is where he goes to the mirror and he goes PARTY because I gotta.
Yep.
And I love how he walks out and he's doing the wee dance down the hallway and the music's playing, and then he remembers, shh, gotta be quiet because of Mrs. Peeman, and then that clock comes out and he's trying to smash it with a mallet. Eventually, and he's hitting the wall and everything. And eventually, when he hits it, I love that was the way he goes,
snooze. And then Mrs. Peeman comes out.
But I love how she comes out with the green face pack on.
Mhm.
And then he's standing there with this green face, and she screams, and then he screams. So he's like, his tongue comes out and his eyes comes out of his head.
Yeah, they like scared of each other, but he's obviously just making fun of her. Like,
He's taking the piss out of her, and then she comes out with a shotgun.
oh my god! And this is the first time you can see that he could like maneuver physics, because he just jumps out the window completely.
Yeah, and then we have another very comedic, as I should have mentioned earlier, a lot of like the comic or cartoonish are based on, is it, what's his name, Tex
Avery.
Avery, yes. So you can see that when he splatters on the ground and then he pulls his face up and he says, "Look, man, roadkill."
And this actually goes into a line that I always use all the time with the guys and beeping the horn at him. And I love the lighting in the scene, by the way, the red and blue, the wet ground. I love all that. He starts beeping the horn at him, and he's like, I think he's trying to communicate. And then he pulls out a little horn and he beeps it right at him, blows the glass out.
Your man's sitting there with his hair.
Yeah.
As if an explosions went off. He drives off too. You see, he just drives off.
Well, what do you do in that situation?
And then Jim Carrey kind of, or Stanley, or the mask, blows the horn as if it's been a gun. He's like,
yeah.
But I love this guy. He's like, he's standing there and he's like, "Hey, mister, you get the time?" And I love how he's like, "As a matter of fact, I do."
It's about 1:15.
he puts the wee
pocket watch.
Pocket watch out. Yeah. But yeah, this is one of my obviously I adore this movie, as I said earlier, John, from start to finish. But there's particular scenes in this movie I always look forward to, and this one here where he kind of like takes out a few of the thugs or a few of the punks, and he goes, "Come on," and runs down the alleyway, and they chase him. And when they get there, his outfit is totally changed, and it's like he's at a carnival, and he's like, "Step right up, don't be shy." But he's like, where is it now? I've got it written down here. Yeah, where he starts making the blow up animals. And this is the magic of this mask character. When you wear the mask of what you're able to do, he's able to kind of dazzle people into his fantasy what he's living out. And this street guy in his now, like, they're like a bunch of kids dazzled about what they're watching. And he's like, "There you go, son, you got a giraffe. Now get out of here, you bother me." And then next one he says, "And for you, a French poodle." He says, "Dog was rabid, had to put it down." And I
actually, when I was a kid, I can remember feeling sad for that guy at that moment, but I was like, because I had childhood emotion. Like now, I'm like that's just hysterical. And you see him pull out the used condom, like it's
he goes, "Wrong pocket." I'm near certain that was improvised by Jim Carrey.
I heard that too, which is crazy. That, like, again, I'm like 5-6 years old watching this movie. You're 12. We don't even know what that is. It's just a blink and you miss it joke.
No, I think it just totally went over my head. And as you said about the sound effects, I think when he can hear it when he throws it, a sludging sound.
Yeah,
you know,
the thing was loaded up.
And then the next scene, this bit here is like, he goes, "A bit of body English," but then the next scene he says, "Now for my favorite."
And the
A
sound,
Tommy
the
gun.
score here is great too, and the sound effect as he pulls it out into a Tommy gun that looks
Yeah,
rubbery
and
throughout.
it's
Oh,
the way Jim Carrey done that, but John, without that was like he done all those kind of movements without knowing what the actual physical or visual effect was going to look like. They were able to just put it in because he just done such a great job. They didn't have to change anything to do with his arms or anything or his hands, to put the change the balloon to the gun, but he done that actual movement, which is amazing. And as I say, I mentioned in one of our earlier podcasts, I think it was Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. There's that famous scene or shot from an early 30s, probably gangster movie of him firing the Tommy gun and laughing, which we see at the start of Temple of Doom as well. I love that shot. See him standing with that Tommy gun. I want a picture of that.
me too. I love that the camera's dead straight on with him. I love it. Totally right out of a 30s gangster movie. I mean, obviously they got the Tommy gun there, so that's what they're going for, and that's what he's going for. And then he gets them out of the alley. He jumps over there and he's like, "With these powers, I could be a superhero, fight crime." And then what does he say? Protect for world peace.
He says, I could fight crime, protect the innocent, work for world peace.
but first.
But see, before that, I love how he's like, when he throws the Tommy gun and you hear the cat.
Oh yeah,
and it's a cat. He throws the Tommy gun, and all you hear is like "Rawr!" And he's like, "This is incredible."
Great sound design throughout the entire movie.
It's brilliant, and just how Jim Carrey throws himself over that kind of like what would you call that? What he's standing in front of,
like a podium.
Like a podium, yes, the way he threw it. He's so athletic in this movie. He's so great the way he moves his body and stuff, John. And then he goes off and this is the start of part of his revenge. He takes it out on the sleazy mechanics. And I love how it just cuts to them. They're sitting there in the firehouse eating, just sleazy, and they're laughing about something. And you just know they're laughing about someone that they've ripped off.
Oh, yeah, because they're just such piece of shit. And they are, because they're dirty, greasy, haven't washed up all day. But yeah, they're just laughing about what they've done to people.
Yeah. And he bursts through the door and he's like, "Hold on to your lung nuts. It's time for an overhaul."
Spinning. Like how he's spinning around like that. That sound effect is great too. And it's clearly Jim Carrey making the sound effect.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, and then I love that next scene, the shot of the next morning where it shows like the skyline of the city and the sun coming through, and he wakes up. And I talk about not remembering the first time I seen things, but I think there was part of me at this stage of the movie thinking that was a dream.
That's
like
what
he was
they
thinking.
want us to think that too. They want us to think like he's thinking that.
Because he gets up and he's like, because it doesn't show you how. It doesn't show you how he got home. It doesn't show you how he took the mask off. You're wondering, I mean, the first time you're watching the movie, you don't really know the rules. You're kind of like, why is he back to normal again? His hair's all over the place. He's in bed. He must be dreaming. And he thinks the same. He gets up and there's the mask sitting there. And he looks in the mirror and he's like, "Oh, it was a dream." It's almost like he knew what he'd done. It's like, do you ever have a dream? This happens sometimes to me. Do you ever have a dream? And the dream is so horrific, but realistic that you wake up the next day and go, "Thank fuck that was a dream."
Yeah, I've had it actually both ways though. I've had it where thank God it's a dream, and then I've had it where it's like, that was a dream.
No, I thought you were going to say you've had it where you've woke up and went, "Was that a dream?" And you went, "Oh shit, no, it actually happened."
No, I've had that happen. I've had that happen too, but that's more just disappointment. But I've had it where I was like, "Oh, come on, life was so good in that dream."
Oh yeah, I've had that too. Yeah, when you wake up and you go, "Oh shit, it was only a dream." But
all right, I'll go to work.
Yeah, I'm going to work here. You dream it's a Saturday morning, and when you wake up, it's bloody Monday.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Yeah. So next thing is there's a rap at the door, and this is the first time I think we meet. Is it Lieutenant Calloway?
Yep, Lieutenant Calloway.
To the door, and he says about, "Did you hear a disturbance last night?" And Stanley's like, "Disturbance?" And he's like, "Yeah, your landlady, Mrs. Peeman, was attacked by an intruder last night." And he says, "Attacked?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he sees where she's going, "You see that? He put that right into my floor and then jumped out the window." And I love how he's like, that's impossible. he says, "No, those pajamas are
Numbers are
impossible.
impossible. This
This
actually
actually
happened.
happened."
His pajamas are. I like the little running joke about the pajamas through this movie. I mean, I have when we get to it in a couple minutes, I have a big like ridiculous plot hole. Not plot hole, but like you have to really defy belief for this one kind of thing.
Right, okay, fair enough, right? No worries. But yeah, he says to him, "No, never heard anything," and he's like, "You didn't hear her firing a gun?" And he's like, "No, I have an ear problem. Sometimes I can't hear anything at all." And he's like, "Is that so? Eh?
And then you get the sound effect of him screeching in his ear.
Eh?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Good luck in cracking the case."
Yeah.
And so this is the first time he's basically he's late for work, and because he's spun about the place, his apartment's a mess and can't find his keys, and he gets the keys and he sees the mask sitting there on the sofa, and it's just really weird. This never ever made sense to me, which goes back to what we mentioned earlier about how the mask is drawn to someone. Is it a case of that when somebody wears a mask, it will go back to its original owner? I'm not sure, because he throws it out the window and it like boomerangs back in again, and that has never made sense to me.
Well, do you hear the sound effect when he throws it out the window? It's the same sound effect as when you cross over the mast. That like almost like I don't know, like almost sounds like wind chimes a little bit. So I think it is some sort of magic that drags it back to him. It has to be.
So does that mean, although it defies that purpose at the end of the movie, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think that if somebody else puts it on, then it won't go back to him. It'll go back to the new person that's put it on, because he throws it in the river. Well, we'll get to that, but he throws it in the river at the end, and it just floats away.
Yeah, I guess at that point now, like he doesn't need the mask anymore. I don't know. Maybe he needs the mask at this point. Is this also when we see that the guys who were at the lug nut at the mechanic shop had the mufflers shoved up their ass?
I think it does show that first. Yeah, I didn't write that note down, but I think it does go to that, and then it goes to his bank, the bank. But
Yeah, that's the first time we saw Peggy, and then we see her at the bank when he gets to the bank and gets to work, and he's running late again, and we meet his boss.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It shows that, and then it goes to the bank. But you're right. You see Peggy Brandt standing there taking notes about these guys being taken out on the trolley.
Yeah, they're like all upset, like don't move. They got a whole muffler up their ass, which is
like
incredible.
They're on their hands and knees. They can't even lie down in the stretcher. They're on their hands and knees.
Yeah, they didn't remove it. They're like, we'll do it at the hospital.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we go in, and you're right. His boss, I wrote his boss as an ass and a sleaze, and I think Stanley's painting over Tina. Do you think, will she ever come back, Charlie? And he's like, no, what you need that girl is always after the BBD, the bigger, better deal. He says, no, what you need somebody down to earth, somebody with integrity, somebody with red hair and full pouting lips, white blouse, a green jacket, and a name tag. And Stanley says, boy, you've really narrowed it down. Two badges already taken. But of course, again, which this keeps happening to Charlie throughout the movie, she wants to speak with Stanley because she's seen his name in the auto dealer, Ripley's Auto Dealing. Funny enough, not you. Ripley's Auto Dealing. So she's came to ask him a few questions about, does he know anything? And that's Peggy Brandt from Alas Peggy.
Yeah, I like her. She's great in this movie, by the way. And I like that. Yeah, Ask Peggy. Then he wrote her an article. He wrote her a note back in the day. This is something that people used to do. They used to write into people like this. And, he wrote in a letter, I guess a letter or a writing about like how nice guys finish last. Tales all this time.
Yeah, well, back in those days, not that I would be familiar with it, but I would know.
No, this is a little bit before us.
Yeah, where there was like Lonely Hearts columns, wasn't there? Where now you've got like online dating, right? But back then you could put an ad, like a Lonely Hearts column, in like a newspaper or a magazine with people's details. And I think what you could do is either their numbers was in there, you could contact.
I think
them directly,
the most famous,
or would you have to contact them through the newspaper or the magazine? I'm not sure.
I'm not entirely sure either. The most famous of this is the Pina Colada song. If you like Pina Coladas getting caught in the rain, that's what that song is about. Is putting an article in the newspaper to find a lonely heart. Basically.
Oh, right, okay.
And then the spin on it is it was a guy cheating on his wife, so he was trying to find a girl, and the person who responds to the ad is actually his wife. So I don't know how you look at that. They were both trying to cheat on each other and ended up back with each other. It's a weird thing, but that's the most famous of these kind of things.
There you go. I didn't realize that, but yeah, it's but I think in this, it's not so much a Lonely Hearts column, but he says nice guys finished last. It's like he won a competition called Mr. Nice Guy. So I'm not sure. Did you have to enter into this some kind of competition to win something. I'm not sure, because he does make a point of saying about, do you really think there's lots of women looking for a guy like me? And she's like, of course, I'm one of them.
Yeah, which she doesn't really she screws him over in the end though, which is messed up. But yeah, she seemed like such a nice, sweet girl.
Yeah, well, I think at this stage of the movie, John, it's kind of like a misdirection. They're trying to make you think that Stanley's chasing this one here. This girl is out of his league, and he's going to end up with this girl here, who's probably a nicer girl, who isn't a gangster's mall, who's probably a nicer girl, maybe has more in common with Stanley, is maybe down in her luck. She talks about that, you're not doing the column no more, and she's like, no, dear Peggy pays dick. So I can't pay for my condo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've got in common that they're kind of like, she's in a condo, he's living in an apartment. You know, she's working girl, she's not a singer at a nightclub. Do you know what I mean? And he's working at a bank, and it's almost as if you're thinking, oh, these two are probably going to get together at some stage. You know, Tina's
A fantasy?
well, yeah, fantasy, but out of his league, but also kind of like, it's a gangster's mall. So you're automatically assuming she's in on this heist. She went in and put the camera. You're automatically thinking that she is definitely gonna, you know, fuck Stanley over at some stage. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah, they definitely are trying to set that up, and then of course we know she does because she's that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, not so much her, but I think at this
No,
stage you're
I
maybe
mean,
thinking Tina.
Tina, they're trying to make us think that Tina will because obviously we know who she's dating, but Peggy is actually the one who does.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a misdirection here at this
Yeah.
stage of the movie, and even the way the music and all is playing in this scene as well. You
Yeah.
know,
Sweet.
it's a good scene, Nick, and she does seem like a genuinely good girl. But I mean, we'll get to it. She obviously makes bad decisions for her own selfish needs, like all the other women. The woman at the start, same with her as well. Plus, she kind of looks like the woman at the start. Also makes you think that, oh, that's his type.
Yeah, she does. They have that very long, wavy hair and the business casual suits.
Yeah, green suit and the name badge. Yeah. So yeah, this is when we first meet Nico, as you mentioned earlier on, playing golf.
Scary
Electronic golf. Yeah, he's like doing a driving range on some kind of electronic.
Yeah, the smoky 1990s interior. I love it.
Yeah, and I love how they bring Dorian Terrell in, and he turns out and he says to him, "Hello, Dorian."
This guy's voice is great.
Is he dubbed?
I don't know because he does sound a little bit different later in the movie, but he does have a cool voice. I like this voice. It's like very like deep. Do you would cross me? Like he's speaking in a very, very direct, calm tone.
Yeah, because I don't think he's an American. So I think
I don't think so either. He looks like honestly, he looked like Native American, like Indian almost.
I'm near certain I read about him, John, that he was like he was an actor in another country or something because he didn't do too much in America, and that's what made me kind of think that maybe he was dubbed, maybe he couldn't speak English well or whatever. But if not, it's still a great voice.
Yeah, the voice, I love it. And I mean, again, this is what I wrote in the notes though. Like, why would he cross Nico? Nico seems like a badass. These guys seem like they're all still working for, like, he's trying to build up his own gang, obviously, Dorian. But I don't know. Nico looks like he has a lot of power, and he throws the threat right here, like to get out of town.
Well, yeah, he tells him, he says the cops came down and they don't like your small time criminality that he's doing out of his club. So it's not even his club, Peter Green's club. It's not Dorian's club. So he finds out about this and he's basically saying to him, you're giving you 1 week to get out of town. So the sense that I'm getting, John, is that Dorian and it's like a crew. They work for Nico. And what he's doing is that he is actually going to try and overthrow Nico and take over the city, but he needs money to do it. So he basically, like you say, Nico obviously is the biggest gangster, the head of the gangsters in that city. So he's probably thinking, if I take Nico out, I have the money then to pay these guys to work for me, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's doing these such small scams out of his club and he says, I don't want the club to get shut down. So a guy who's as big a gangster as Nico isn't doing small patty shit, and he doesn't want any heat from small patty stuff. Do you know what I mean? He's probably doing big time stuff, and he's like, he's doing small patty stuff. He's going to get my club closed down. That's why he says, look, you got to he's making an example of him. You won't make it to get out of town. Not knowing that he's actually plotting against him in the background.
Yeah, and which really is, I mean, even if he robbed, I don't know. I don't think it would have paid off very well for Dorian. He just seems like too much of a hothead anyway. And even the cops think that of him. Whereas Nico, I feel like you're saying, like this guy's like, he owns the Coco Bongo Club. That's one of his clubs. So he's probably like a big time, like business guy as well. Whereas Dorian's just a gangster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I mean, as we get into it later on, when they have the charity ball, you see that Nico was there freely mingling with the mayor.
Yeah. That's you can't go higher than that.
So if you really want to read between the lines, it could be a stage that, yeah, he could be a type of gangster that at one stage was like at Dorian's level and has risen up and is more kind of tried to turn legit. Do you know what I mean? But still is corrupted, but is hanging with these public officials as well, and is probably paying them as well to keep them in sweet.
Yeah, I'm sure he's trying to keep everyone pretty sweet, and he's like got probably a bunch of Dorians running around, like doing all the actual crime stuff, so he doesn't have to. He just don't draw heat to me.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, if you really want to read between the lines too, you could say that maybe Dorian is because he says, "This is your final warning. Get out of the city. You've got a week." Because in other words, the next thing is you're going to end up in one of the trash bins outside, right? Yeah, he's going to bump him off, but it makes you think that maybe this isn't the first time he's had to warn Dorian about what he's been up to, and maybe that's why Dorian decided to move against him.
It's very, very possible. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, look at John Gotti.
That's true too, but he came out. I guess you're right. You know what? I guess he did pull that one off, right?
Well, the talk was that Paul Castellano was gonna take him and his crew out because they were dealing drugs, and that's why they moved against Paul Castellano.
Yeah, I mean that's where the game was moving. Very similar to The Godfather.
And and they do say that if you want to become boss of a family, you have to take the other boss out.
Yeah, and I guess Dorian felt like he could do it. I don't know. Felt like he was a little too low level for it.
Yeah, well, he might not be able to put it off, but that I think that was his plan. So it was.
Yeah, and isn't that the next scene? Is him robbing the bank?
No. So the next scene we go on to, Stanley's having a dream about when he was thrown out of the club.
Oh yeah.
Only this time he's really cool. He has him. He's standing there. He's smoking the cigarette, kind of. He's really cool, James Dean. And of course, Tina pulls up in the car, and she says, "Are you okay?" And Stanley's like, "I am now." Flicks the cigarette away, and you see the car pull up in the background, and it is a Porsche. Because remember he says earlier, you pull up on a Porsche.
Yeah, there it is. This beautiful white Porsche
in the background. Yeah. And he goes to kiss Tina, and she turns his head around and starts licking his ear. And he's like, Tina? When he actually wakes up, and this time it is a dream, and it's Milo is licking his ear and wakes him up out of his dream. And that's when he goes to the mirror, and he's got the newspaper clipping of Tina in his mirror. And he's looking at her, and he's like, he's thinking she would never, ever get with a guy like me. And he goes to throw it away, and that's when he sees the masker. And I love this. See this part of the movie, John, for the next couple of scenes. This middle part of this movie. This is my favorite part of this movie. You know what I mean? From here, see when he turns, like you say about how it's lit, how the scene looks, the blues and the blacks and stuff like that. It's lit beautifully. And then he sees it there, the mask sitting on the sofa, which he thought he threw out the window. He didn't notice it came back. And the music kicks in, the music starts, and then he's drawn in, and he's like, no, because he knows he's deep down. He's like, that's a bad idea. And he throws it behind the sofa, but the urge is too much. He jumps in. Do you notice this time when he puts it on? Because he's prepared for it. He's not screaming. He's not shouting or anything. He's just letting the mask do its work.
Yep, and he jumps right into it. Like he's like very calm, ready, and this is where we get the he's got to like goes to the mirror. He's wearing the iconic yellow suit that we have in the background, and he's like, he pulls out his pockets. I love how nothing comes out. He's like, ooh, can't make the scene without having the green. I got to make a little stop.
Well, just like Ace Ventura, there's so many memorable quotes from this movie, and everybody knows smoking, right? But I love when he first turns into the mask. He stops at the mirror and he picks up the picture and he says, hold on, sugar. Daddy's got a sweet tooth tonight. But he goes into the bathroom, and I love how he's like, having a shave with a cut throat, and then doing his hair with a hair dryer, and he lifts the dog and he wipes his chin with it. And when he puts the hat on, now this is my favorite line of the whole film. When he puts the hat on and he looks in the mirror and he goes, ooh, somebody stop me.
Somebody stop me.
That's classic too.
Yeah, sometimes I just say it about the house by myself when I'm doing something. I just turn to the dog and be like, ooh, somebody stop me. And that's my favorite line in the whole movie. And it's like you say, yeah, he checks his, I think he pulls his at the inside of his trouser leg out, and a butterfly flies out of it, or
Yeah,
a
it's like
moth.
not, yeah, it's supposed to be like something that has it because it's so empty. Like all the things have taken up space. So yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a moth or something.
A moth, yeah. And he's like, can't make the scene. You ain't got the green. I got to make a little stop. And then obviously he goes out the door. And that's when it goes to the bank robbery.
Yeah, which I love the bank robbery scene. Like even when you see it on security tape, but we just see the aftermath of like, Dorian's gang going to rob it and him coming outside and like, we're like, sorry, partner. I love that. Just he's got the whole cartoonish bag of money, by the way, with a money symbol on it.
So he comes out and he's like, he goes like, and then he says to him, sorry, fellas, wasting that whatnot. And he spins off, and then the cops come down thinking they're the ones that were robbing the bank, and then the shootout pursues. But then that brilliant scene this time, instead of pulling up in the loner, he's pulls up in this like overlawn limo, which is probably 4 times longer than a normal limo.
Oh yeah, and the score, like the music that's playing with all the horns, the big orchestra, and like how the camera zooms in as they open the door for him. Like this must be some big shot, right?
Yeah, and the way he gets out and he's like, "How do?" But nobody even like that's what I'm saying. The magic.
I think they're under they're all under the spell of the mask. Yeah, because how would this not come up in the next day with this guy out here shooting money into the air, or like when he's in there dancing like that? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, they just like take it in their straight. They're all like, whoa, and hey, who is this guy? And of course, his time. I love the way it's filmed, the way he just kind of floats up to the camera, and he's right up to the camera like this.
Yep.
To the guy at the door, and he's like, are you on the list? And he's like, no. But I think my friends are. And he pulls out all the money. He's naming the presidents. Yeah. And he just throws them up the money up in the air. And then when he walks past the camera, he's like, that's all classic. And then of course when he goes into the actual club, like as I say, when this to me is like,
this gets huge laughs out of me still, by the way.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. From when he puts that mask on the second time, like the first time he puts it on, it's classic, right? There are classic scenes, but this, when he's, as you say, in the classic yellow suit, when he pulls up to the Coco Bongo Club Part 2, as I call it, Coco Bongo Part 2, and he goes in there, and Tina then comes out. And she does her song and her dance, which kind of reminds me a bit of like Roger Rabbit a bit.
Yeah.
When Jessica Rabbit does the song.
It's very similar to that. And and he's in the crowd in a very similar way. And it's funny because he's pretending to be a cartoon character here.
Yeah. And then he's doing all the kind of, those kind of cliche comic booky type of moments where what we used to see in the old cartoons when a cartoon character is seen an attractive woman, even if it was an animal, even if it was like Mrs. Bunny, instead of Bugs Bunny, Mrs. Bunny or something like that, the way they used to behave.
Yeah, and I love that he's whistling to it. He even like gets out of crazy. He starts slapping himself in the head with it, like making his teeth go all cartoonish. And he's just able to slide also slickly up to the stage in a real quick motion.
Yeah, and this is the thing too, and people don't realize this because time moves on and effects evolve and movies evolve, but all that stuff that we were seeing there, nobody had ever seen that before in a movie.
No, and it all still looks great.
Yeah.
But I think that's because it's CGI. I think because it's CGI on top of real practical stuff. I think that's where we kind of like got lost. Is like now it's like it's also CGI. It all looks so artificial, where it's like the artificial stuff blends into the real world. It's less noticeable.
And I think too as well, John, is that, listen, Jim Carrey's Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's going to do what Jim Carrey does. But I also think there was probably part of the filmmakers at the time, and even Jim Carrey thinking to himself that I'm supposed to be a cartoon here. So I have to be as expressive as possible. Whereas now, I think the actor, I'm not saying Jim Carrey, but the actor, if they were to get an actor to do something similar, the actor would be thinking, actually, the computers will do it.
Yeah.
And I think, as we mentioned earlier on the podcast, it's Jim Carrey that is helping this character come to life. And I think that's part of the problem too. Everybody just thinks, we'll fix it when we do it with computers. As you say, instead of kind of mixing the art forms. And to your point about the makeup, I do love the makeup. And I love how they basically said that because Jim Carrey is that expressive, that they didn't want the makeup to dilute Jim Carrey, to take that those expressions away. They have a rubber. This is they could have done it with a rubber mask, but they wanted his expressions to come through. Yeah, and yeah. So basically, what they have is they have a a headpiece on, like a bald cap on for his head, and cheekbones and a chin. And I think
And
there's a bit going over his eyebrows as well. And that's it. And the rest is just makeup, and it's blended in to make it look like it's a mask over his face. So that means the expressions that he has round his eyes and round his mouth, which is the most rubbery part, he was able to express all that. So he wasn't bogged down in prosthetics and makeup.
it all works out perfectly. Like anything that they have to do, it all works, and it all looks so natural and real. Like that's something that we don't they wouldn't do that today, which is what bothers me.
Yeah. Well, this scene now, like when he gets up on the stage and he's like,
Ugh.
let's rock this joint. This is like, this is the center. To me, this dance is the centerpiece of this movie. It's outstanding. I never get tired watching this part of the movie.
No, it's great. I love the stage setup too, with the lights shining and how they walk down and everything. It's a beautifully choreographed scene. And I'm not somebody who's like, this movie has 2 of these, by the way, beautifully choreographed dance scenes. And I'm not somebody who's into musicals or scenes like this in general, but because they feel so natural in the film and they actually do play into the character, it doesn't bother me like a musical would.
No, exactly. And one thing I have to touch on, we talked about the score earlier, is that the actual soundtrack of this movie, I love the soundtrack of this movie. Now, everybody knows, hey, Panchugo, right? Which is amazing.
See.
I love how he spins the band members around, and when they spin round, they're sitting in like with the wee hats and pinstripe suits, and they're like, and they just start playing boom, ba boom, ba dum, ba dum. But I was gonna say, yeah, I love the soundtrack. So there's this, and later on there's Cuban Pete, and then even Tina's song. And there's other music played that you don't really hear, like some of the words to it, but I actually have the soundtrack, and a lot of the songs in it are of that era. They're of that late 80s, early 90s kind of R&B. So a wee bit cheesy, but it's of its time, and I don't mind listening to it because it's very nostalgic to me. But I do think that there's particular songs that aren't really of that time, the likes of Cuban Pete and Hey Panchugo and stuff like that, are so good for this movie, and it's just so associated with this movie now.
Yeah, which is funny because when we get to Cuban Pete, that was a Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz kind of thing. So it's funny to see it pop up in here again all those years later.
I'm the king of the rumba beat.
Yeah, but see, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see, I wouldn't have known that either if it wasn't for Faith, my wife. She's such a big I Love Lucy fan and loves Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. She's like, oh, you know where that's from originally, and I had no idea. And she's like, yeah. And then she showed me it, and it's literally played out exactly the same. So when the cop is singing that one part, it's actually Lucille Ball, and
Right.
what's it called? The mask part is Desi Arnaz.
Right, okay. Listen, I
And
honestly
the
didn't
outfits
know
the
that.
same, with the arm things and the hat, like those, like that's where he took it all from. I'll have to send you the
Right.
video.
The musical numbers and the dance numbers didn't bother me. I enjoyed them. I loved seeing them, and I never really looked into the background of where the songs came from or anything like that. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known it either if it wasn't for Faith. So,
Uh-huh.
we really got to thank her for that and her
Yep.
love of I Love Lucy, because I wouldn't have found it either. I would have just assumed it was something created for the mask because that's where I saw it.
I just thought it was maybe, look, as I said, look, and I knew it was a song. I knew the song wasn't created for the mask. But I never looked in the background of it. But because on the album, funny enough, I'm near certain Jim Carrey sings it on the album.
Oh, he definitely is singing the song that's in here, which is hysterical, by the way. He does it. He's great.
Yeah, he's brilliant. But this one here, first of all, so he does the song with the dance with Tina, which to me is the centerpiece of this movie. It's absolutely outstanding. I love it to the point where we you probably have a similar show in America, like Dancing with the Stars.
That's the same. It's named that here.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called in America. Over here, it's called Strictly Come Dancing. And I don't really watch it. My parents watch it. Lots of people watch it, and every season they have a movie night where they come out and they would it doesn't have to be a musical. They could come out, for example, John, the Ghostbusters, and dress up like the Ghostbusters and do a dance, right? Okay, so it doesn't have to be like a song from Greece or anything like that. But I've seen people perform Hey Punchico, the man dressed as the mask and the woman dressed as Tina.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And then after we get through the scene of them dancing, which is great, very choreographed, I love it when Dorian comes in. This is some of the best stuff in the movie too. It's so funny.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I made a note here saying, how convenient that when the doctor dies and he says "son of a bitch."
The score
Uh,
picks. Oh my god, the
uh,
sound how it picks up. It's great.
yeah, and I always remember like in the summer of '94 during television breaks, the TV spot for The Mask, it was always him saying, "You tell me who done it, who done this, Eddie?" And he says, "Him, that's the guy." And I would say, like, "The Mask in cinemas now." That was the clip they used to show. So I just find it convenient that he goes to the actual club of the people that were robbing the bank that he just robbed. But it's a movie; it has to be done that way. And yes, he basically then the mask kisses Tina, her shoes fly off, which I think that is supposed to symbolize something else.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a sexual innuendo.
Yeah, and then Dorian comes down and clears the whole place. And I love what he says to the mask. Well, he shoots through the tie, which I find funny. And the tie rips off.
And
And he's
leans
like,
into his pajamas.
yeah, and he's like, hello. And I love when he says to him, I want to know where my money is. I want to know right now. And this is one of the funniest things, the way he goes, okay.
Okay.
And he turns into a bank clerk and starts telling him about all his taxes and all.
Doesn't take him seriously at all. And then they just start shooting at him and
It's
the whole
all
thing.
it's all the things he's turning into. Like, I think the funniest one he turns into to me is Elvis. The way he's straining his legs, he's like, "Whoa, thank you very much." And then, of course, then he pretends to get shot. He's the cowboy, and he goes up and he does all this spiel all about,
Tell Teddy too, I'm not gonna make it home this Christmas.
yeah, tell Scarlett I do give a damn. He's doing all these lines from movies, and then he wins this like fake Oscar.
And he does the Academy Award speech from someone. I always forget who the girl is who did that. Who actually said, "You love me. You really love me." Somebody actually did that. I just always forget who it was.
I think I've heard it. It's been one of those things over the years that has been like, yeah, as you say, parodied or people have said. I don't know who it is. But then he goes to leave and they says, "You're not going anywhere," and then he bounces out of there like he did the hallway earlier on in the movie. And that's when the police come in. Calloway comes in and he arrests him because they find the doc dead. Up
How are they
in
not being
his
arrested
office.
before that? By the way, they're firing guns inside.
Well, they do go in and say something about that. Does he not mention something about shooting the club up or something?
Like they're actually having like a civil conversation with him before this. They're like they tell him to toss the guns down. He's like, actually, for once, it wasn't me this time. And it's like, you should be arrested immediately for firing guns at what we see nothing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is true. And do you notice, but when they go to arrest Dorian, he's got bloody nose. I always wonder what happened there. It's almost like a deleted scene. Maybe did he try and resist arrest or escape or something?
It's a good point. And then this is like how convenient that Calloway remembers the pajama patterns and he finds it on the floor. And it's like, oh, we got to go talk to Stanley.
He sees it and he's like, Ipkiss.
This guy's had a hard on for Ipkiss from the very beginning.
No, for some strange reason. He just doesn't like him. And but yeah, he visits Stanley at his apartment. Of course, Stanley wakes up and again he's kind of forgotten that he's robbed the bank. So he goes to open the closet, I think, to put the mask in there, and all the money falls out. And it baffles me how he gets all that money in
So
by the
fast,
time-
right? It looks like it's everywhere. Huh?
Yeah, how could just sweep that in, and he's fighting with the dog. The dog's on the frisbee, but when he opens the door and he's kind of leaning on the door, just like, yeah, Callahan or Calloway, what can I do for you? And he barges his way in, and I love this. I think this is so funny when he says about, "Can I see your pajamas?" And he says, "Those pajamas?" And he says, "Yes, those pajamas." And he says, "Those pajamas were stolen." And he says, "Somebody stole your pajamas." And he says, "What is the world coming to? Where a man's pajama drawer is no longer safe?"
Absolutely insanity. And of course, he convinces him to get out of there because he's a little bit more confident in himself now. He's a little bit more of a schmoozer, a little less innocent.
Yeah, so because he knows now, like he's
He
coming
did
to
rob the bank.
yeah, he robbed the bank. He's coming to terms with what he's doing. Whereas the first night, it's more kind of shock and horror because he is that nice guy. He's more kind of like, I can't believe that I done that, because he woke up next day thinking, oh, it was a dream. He was relieved. Oh, that was a dream. But the next day he knows what he's done, and it's kind of like, oh shit, need to get rid of this guy, and I need to get to work. And he's like, I'm late. So I think that's the difference, the change in Stanley there. But of course, he goes to the bank and he's late again, and his boss comes out. He's such a sleaze, and he's like, "That's as bad as stealing."
I know. And he's just had enough of him, and he's just fed up. He's angry at this point. He doesn't know like he's robbed the bank and everything, and he just goes off on him and insults him. The guy's like, "All right, that's sometimes you got to stand up for yourself."
Yeah, I love how he kind of like he comes into the bank and he's like all disheveled, and his tie and all disheveled, and his clothes and all this, and he's like walking around like, and then he walks over and he's like, when he starts giving him a hard time, he's like, "Back off, monkey boy." But they said about the I think I'm not sure. I think it was earlier, wasn't it? That they said about if what do you call her? Tina comes in. He was like, "Be sure to sign her to my office." That was earlier, wasn't it? But then she does come in. She comes in and then wants to speak with Stanley. And he says that, "Oh, you didn't just come here to speak to me." And then she was like, "Oh, the guy in the club the other day, they said he robbed the bank." And he pretends that he knows him and he can get her in contact with him and arranges for them to meet in yes, in the park. Let me see here. Yes, in the landfill park. So he does. But actually, that's what I made a note here as well, to be honest with you, John, too. And I think I touched on it earlier on. Was like some of the best moments that Jim Carrey has in this movie, despite all the mask stuff, which is the most rewatchable stuff, is those quieter, kind of more intimate moments with Tina, even though I don't rate her performance.
Yeah, I like that. Like how he's like kind of like, calmly talking to her. The score matches up perfectly with it. And like, kind of says, I taught him those moves. Like, and then he kind of slides over so calmly to her.
Yeah, well, you can see that that's in him. It doesn't need the mask to do it. I taught him those moves, and he kind of slides over to her. You can see that that's deep inside of him. He just needs the confidence to bring it out.
Yeah, and then before they meet up that night, that's where he goes to Ben Stein's office, and we see that the mask can only work at night. And he's like, I love it when he puts it on his face, and he's like trying to like act like it's working, and he's like, woo, woo, and like Ben Stein's like, okay, like you're losing your shit.
Yeah. Well, this is a great scene as well because it kind of slows the pace of the movie down. I think we need that breather at this stage. We need a breather, yeah. And this gives us a wee bit of exposition, a wee bit of history about, because at this stage, you're having fun and you might be questioning, what is this mask? Where did it come from? Why does it have these mystical powers? How can he do this? And it's Dr. Newman, you call him. So he's seen him on the television. He's got a book out. He obviously goes to this guy because he might have given him some answers to this mask, give him an idea of where it came from. And he does basically give him a wee bit of background on the mask, informs him that it's the Norse night gods, the Norse night god Loki from the 4th or 5th century. And the Norse god of mischief. And Jim Carrey says to him, he might have banished him into that mask. But this guy here is more literary, and he's kind of like a metaphor, Mr. Ipkiss, a metaphor. And so it's kind of given an explanation of the power of the mask and its origin. But that's when Jim Carrey says to him, okay, I'll prove it to you. He says, but I'm not going to be responsible for my actions or no, for the consequences. And he goes, just sit back and enjoy the ride, Mr. Expert. And he says to him, you don't scare me, Mr. Ipkiss. Go right ahead. And you're right. It's so funny. He's like, see ya, when he goes to put it on and it doesn't work. And he's going, and he even spins around and all. And that's when he takes it off. And he's like, all right, maybe it only works at night. And that's what the Chuck Russell said himself. He says, look, we wanted to make rules for the mask. We wanted to live within those rules. And that's what Wes Craven done with the original Nightmare on Elm Street by giving the Freddy rules within the dream world.
Yeah.
So they do the same with this mask, and it was actually the screenwriter that said that he thought it would be good that because you don't want it's like superheroes, it's like Superman. It's like people say about Superman. They say, well, look, how can you defeat Superman? Because he can do everything. Do you know what I mean? Well, he's got his kryptonite, right? So that's what can defeat Superman. So he can't do everything, and he can only do it on Earth. He can't do it outside of Earth. If he goes to another planet, he might be able to do it. So the kryptonite of the mask is that it only works at night, and the actual screenwriter says he got that idea from vampire movies, that vampires only come out at night. So anybody that wears the mask can only come out at night and wear the mask.
Yeah, it works out really good. And that's when we shift to the next scene where we see him in the park, and it's Stanley, and he's, obviously he's trying to sway her to like him a little bit more, but he's like, all right.
Yeah, well, there's a brief scene of Callahan is actually surveilling Stanley. He's watching this guy's office. Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is because he basically he's got the results back from the fingerprints within the bank, and none of Dorian's men's fingerprints are actually anywhere in the bank. but Stanley's are, and he's like, I've got him under surveillance, and he says, keep the SWAT team on standby. If this guy's half as bad as he's supposed to be, we're gonna have a full dance guard. So he's foreshadowing what's gonna happen at the park. But yeah, he meets her at the landfill park, and because he's advised by Dr. Newman, go as yourself and the mask, because they're both two and the beautiful, or one of the same beautiful person. So he does, but when she arrives, he feels so awkward. He's so socially awkward. He runs away and puts the mask on, and it's really weird because at this stage, when he puts the mask on, like, I'm starting to dislike the mask because of how he's treating Tina in this scene, because he's making all these kind of sexual innuendos towards her and making all these sexual kind of comments. And listen, I'm no snowflake. I'm not a prude, but I do find it uncomfortable. And I think she, as the character, is finding it uncomfortable. And I think that the mask is at this stage is kind of reading the wrong signals. I don't know if that was intentional.
I always felt like the reason why they did this is because now he's overly confident in himself. This is the third time he's put the mask on for us. He knows it completely. And I think now he's overstepping his boundaries a little bit. That's where he doesn't need the mask anymore, because now he's kind of had Stanley Ipkiss himself is becoming more confident. He doesn't need the mask anymore. And this is when he puts the mask on. Now he's kind of he's going a step too far.
Yeah, the whole thing is as well, John, I think with the mask and the power of the mask is that, as they said in the previous scene, he's the god of mischief. He's not there for good. You know, and that's what they say later about what happens if Dorian gets the mask. Then we're in big trouble, because Stanley is a good guy. You know, he's never ever really going to go too far, right? But put it in the hands of a really bad guy, and really bad things are going to happen. But of course, she's kind of saved by the police, and there's a whole load of gags that go on here about freeze, and he's like frozen. He's like, what's he say? Put your hands up. And he's like, but you told me to freeze. And he's like, all right, on freeze.
Yeah, and then this is my favorite of all these gags, when they're like emptying everything in his pockets and they're all loaded up. And he's like, picture of Calloway's wife, and he's like, what? He's like, what? I thought you had a sense of humor. After all, you married her.
Yeah, that's right. But oh no, that gag was taken from The Naked Gun.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw, and it's funny because I saw the mask first and then watched Naked Gun after. But yeah, I love that joke though. I always saw it from here first because, you know, my age. But I love that joke.
I think it's done better in The Naked Gun though, because the way he puts his hands through, he's searching the guy in The Naked Gun, and he puts his hands through and puts it into the policeman's pockets and puts out a picture of his wife and goes, look, I've got a picture of, he's got a picture of your wife. And he's like, what? You son of a bitch. Punch. But yeah, when they're searching his pockets and it's going on for ages, he's like, he does do lines from the movies again. And he does The Fugitive. It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man. And
no, it wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
And he's like, okay, I confess, it was me. I tell you, and I'm glad you're here. And then, but I love when they're searching the pockets and it's like bazooka, you know. And my favorite one is when he pulls the glasses out with the eyeballs, and he's like, he says eyeball glasses, and Jim Carrey looks at it and goes, I've never seen those in my life. But that's when he escapes from them.
Hurt.
He's like, that's gotta hurt. He escapes. And he nails shut the doors to the park, and he turns, and there's the full police forces in front of him, and that's when he breaks into Cuban Pete.
My favorite part of the movie, 100%.
Oh, is this your favorite part?
I love Cuban Pete. I love this entire musical. It's my favorite musical sequence in film history. I love.
Oh, really?
I'm the king of the rumba beat. When I play the maracas, I go chick chicky boom, chick chicky boom.
Oh my god, I adore this scene. I'll just watch the scene randomly. It puts me in a good mood. I love it how the spotlights kick in, everything, and you hear the score, like the whole thing right before they start kicking into it. It's all perfect. And then of course, even just through the entire scene, it's all great how he possesses the cop to sing along with him.
Yeah.
But then right even at the end, I will laugh hysterically when Calloway's like shoots the gun in. All right, snap out of it. Come on, he's right there. Like he's screaming at him.
Yeah, but the thing is that when they're claiming, when him and Doyle, he's always like, Doyle, you know. him and Doyle are climbing over the wall because they can't go through the gate, right? You hear Doyle saying, "Stop," and I'm going, "Not bad." And he says to him, "Shut up and help me down." But when he gets down to the bottom, he says, "You start singing, and I'll shoot you."
Yeah, because he starts dancing with him. He can't get because he's just an idiot. He's not even blinded by them.
No.
He's just the baffling partner idiot. That's all his character is. But it works great.
Yeah, they work brilliant off each other. But no, I agree with you from the point of view. I know my favorite scene is the dance in
Yeah,
the
earlier.
actual in the Cookaburra Club, and I think that's more iconic than this. But I think as a set piece, one full set piece for this song, it probably works better because the Hey Panchugo song is kind of interrupted because of the death in the office and him looking out the window and then going down himself and breaking the song up. Whereas this works from start to finish until the cop, as you say, until Calloway breaks it up at the very end of the song. And there's some great moments in this, as you say, the cops singing along with him and dancing. And when he kisses the old lady as well, she screams and he kisses her and then runs down the alleyway.
It's great. The whole sequence. I love this. It's one of my and even like and this is the first time we actually see him remove the mask, so we get to see how the effects are like when he pulls it off and how it's like spinning around his arms and he turns right back into Stanley Ipkiss costume off and everything.
Yeah, and I love how you see his face gets kind of attached to his face. His flesh is kind of stuck to it, and it just kind of like
and how
pulls back at the skull again.
Yeah, and how his emotions change. He just went from being completely confident and cocky in this whole situation to being scared.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing about this, I know it's only a movie, and but I always think to myself, like, well, why did he take it off there?
I know. I don't know why he would not. It's not about to be daytime. Why does he choose to take it off? Maybe he needs to have more control. That's what I
Maybe.
kind of think. I think it's the control thing because he doesn't have control when he's the mask, and he could just make this 10 times worse than it already is. So maybe he has to find a way to get out of there calmly. That's the only reason because I always wondered that too. Why is this the exact moment when he chooses to pull off the mask when he's finally gotten away? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe that's always my logic behind it.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably more to do with control, John, that he knows that he's getting out of control. Deep down, he knows that, he's got down a bad path here. You know what I mean? He's robbed a bank. He knows the cops are on to him. And, but then you've got, I think there was a scene there in between there where Peggy Brandt hears that the police have got Stanley at the park, and she goes as a reporter, but then picks him up in the alleyway. But again, as you say about Stanley getting more confidence stuff, he runs down the alleyway and you see him sliding over the bonnet of the car, like some kind of like action hero. And the cops come out and he's like, "Stop or I'll shoot." And then he's like, "Shoot," and they all start firing. And I love how Doyle's like, "I missed him." And Calloway's like, "We all missed him. Come on."
Hates him. Missed him. Like he's the only one. There's 40 cops around him shooting. I always quote the line that Peggy says in the car: "Seatbelts." I'll say it in her tone of voice all the time when I'm in the car with Faith.
Yeah, seatbelts. Yeah.
Like they're getting shot at. No worries though.
Oh yeah, put your seatbelts on. Who cares about the seatbelt? And then when they get back to the newspaper factory or printing factory, I love that newspaper. I wish I had a copy of that newspaper. I love how the camera is on the newspaper and just kind of pans up to them and sitting on the newspapers, and it's like him with the swag and the smile, and it says like "Mask robs bank." And I really love this scene as well as how like he's telling Peggy about the mask and how it's ruining his life. And she and later you find out she doesn't give a damn. She's just running down the clock and keeping him talking and keeping him there so Dorian can turn up so she can get the $50,000, which he had said earlier, but I think I've missed that wee bit of the scene where he had actually offered for anybody who can find the mask and bring him to him alive will get the $50,000. And of course she has set him up.
Shut him up, and then she apologizes, but and I guess she kind of we're supposed to like be like, "Oh, that's messed up," but the way she does it's like she was desperate too. I guess is how they kind of set it up for us to be a little bit more forgiving.
Well, there's bigger things in life than money, and it just shows you that she's just a user as well because she used Stanley to get $50,000. So she did.
And she thinks, I mean, she's leaving this thinking that he's probably gonna, she's like, "Don't hurt him." And like, what do you think was going to happen?
Well, that was the thing. Then you're kind of led to believe that she's not all bad. Well, nobody's all bad. Before I talked about that in the podcast, John, unless you're like, well, even Darth Vader's not all bad. But we're led to believe that she thought that they weren't gonna hurt him, and that's why she done it. So there's that kind of lightened up tone to this, because as we know, we discussed it before we went live, is that there's a deleted scene where they actually murder. They don't give Peggy the 50K. They actually murder her.
Yeah.
And if you notice, I think she disappears in the scene as well.
Well, yeah, but
disappears out of the scene.
Yeah, she's gone completely once it comes down to Dorian and Jim Carrey talking on everything, and he explains, "You just put it on."
Yeah, you just put it on.
Yeah, and it's a much darker version than like when Stanley puts it on. The clouds and thunder and lightning go over him, and his eyes are red, and of course he's got hair.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. Like, why is Stanley bald and he's got hair?
Oh, literally, I can always remember thinking that as a kid. I'm like, why didn't Stanley get hair? I mean, they both had hair, but why is his like this overly thick, slick back hair? I guess maybe because he's supposed to look as evil as possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that. Like, I mean, maybe Stanley has a thing for bald guys.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
He wants his inner Bruce Willis was coming out. So it was. And yeah, you see this dark cloud over him. So as briefly mentioned earlier, because he's a bad guy, there's a bad cloud of, purple and black kind of haze comes around him. And I was like, what are we going to do with Stanley? And he's like, the police are looking for the mask. So we'll give him the mask. Yeah. And they go to his house or his apartment, and they get the money, and they've kidnapped Stanley, and then they throw Stanley at the police station. I love how Calloway is like, yeah, Stanley Ipkiss is going to really fall right into my lap. And he does. He throws him. He lands on his lap, and he knocks him over. And he says, it's not me. And he says, oh, what is this? And they pull it. It's like a Frankenstein mask.
I know, like that was it. And then he's like, I mean, I don't know what you say though, like, because it's like, how do I explain this? He can't really explain it all. So that's why they throw him in jail. But one quick line before he got thrown in there, you could hear Doyle say to Calloway while they're walking out, yeah, they got an offer for Broadway, I think, or something like that.
Oh, is that right? Is that what he says?
Yeah, I think the Force got an offer for Broadway. Just a quick little passing line. I was just dying.
I didn't even hear it. I've never heard that. I totally missed that.
It's very fast. It's just like as they're walking down the steps, right as they're walking to the car.
Fuck's sake. But that's brilliant. But yeah, but it's like I almost feel as if, because you see them as watching the CCTV footage from the bank, and you hear Doyle saying, I don't know, Sarge, that's a hell of a rubber mask. So when he does turn up with a green rubber mask, it's almost like it's just the magic of the mask is, it's kind of the belief, but disbelief, and you could believe that he was wearing this green mask and he robbed the bank, But that next scene where obviously Milo has followed him to the jail, and I love I think it's the next day where the cop comes to the jail bars and he's like, hey, you with the face. He's like, guys, somebody here to see you, and it's Tina. And so this is a scene here with Tina comes and because she finds out that Stanley is the mask, and she tells him that Dorian's going to the charity ball and he's going to do something terrible. And I love this line where Stanley says, like what? The lambada?
Yeah, she knows it's way worse than that. She's got to get out of there though. But yeah, and the scores here, it's got that like romantic score again.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a nice scene. It's just I made a note here saying I hate her acting, but it's a good scene. Maybe it's the way it's written. I don't know, but it just And of course, when she leaves the jail after visiting Stanley, she is actually leaving town. Dorian's on there and he kidnaps her, and then we see that Stanley hears her screaming, and I love how he's putting the toilet roll down around the toilet seat. Very smart.
Very well, yeah. He's in jail. He doesn't want to sit on something disgusting.
Yeah, I would do the same. I would do the same in public places.
Very smart.
I think I learned it from this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're supposed to do. It's the smart thing to do, But then he realizes that Milo's outside.
Yeah, and of course he talks Milo into jumping up through the bars of the jail cell. I love how he's like, come on, you can do it. Come to daddy. And then eventually he's like, put some effort in it.
Come on, it's not that hard.
I know, it's like dogs jumping like bloody 15 feet.
That's how my dog jumps, which is also, he's part beagle.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also part pit bull, so he's a lot bigger. But he can jump like that. It's crazy. He could get above my head. Yeah, and he's a big boy. So it's 60 pounds jumping that high is crazy. So he could do that, but he wouldn't fit through the bars.
Yeah, well, but see, when I'm sitting like working during the day, John, like Ripley would jump up on my shoulder and put her paws on my shoulder to get me to do something. The other week she actually put her paw down the side of my face because she wanted me to do something, scrub the whole side of my face. And I actually had to say to her, like, don't do that. She actually could show that, don't do it. So now she only kind of grabs on my shoulder.
She's scared to hurt you now.
Oh well, yeah, she learned. She was like, I won't do it on his face again. But yeah, so he with Melo's assistance, he escapes the jail cell by talking the dog into getting the keys, not the cheese, the keys from the prison guard who is, or the police officer who's guarding the cell, by taking the keys very smartly. And then Calloway comes in. Well, he actually, the policeman wakes up, doesn't he? And then he knocks him out with a baton. And Calloway comes in and he kidnaps Calloway to take him out of the jail. But I love how Calloway is like, you're not walking out of here, we're walking out of here like this. And he's like, you're right.
Right.
Yeah, and then he devises a way of doing it. And then when he's leaving, there's Doyle's coming in.
Such an idiot.
He's such a fool. And he's like, where are you taking Ipkiss? And he still doesn't catch on like that. He kind of looks at the car and goes, Ipkiss is driving the car. And not only that, his dog then jumps in the back.
I know. I love the dog is so smart. Obviously, what's it called? Calloway comments on that later when he gets out of the car because they're driving to the Cocobonga Club where we know that Dorian has a bomb ready to go. The most cartoonish looking bomb ever.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, with the dynamite. Yeah. It really is. And that's the comedian, the comic book side of this coming out of the car earlier in the movie and things like that. Yeah, there really is that influence on this movie big time. And this is, for me, Cocobongo Part 3. And I love how you see Nico sitting there and he's doing shots with his goons, having a great time. And Haiti, Haiti, Hattie, hi. Hattie, 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 ho was playing in the background.
They got the big pink money thing above, like everything. It looks like a good time.
Yeah, it looks like I'm having a great day. It looks like it's going to be shaping up to be a great night, isn't it? Of course, Stanley's telling Calloway he's going to be late to the ball. Calloway doesn't understand it. He's like, oh yeah, I'm sure Alice is going to be disappointed, and the White Rabbit's going to be disappointed. And he's like, now you're being cynical. But Dorian Gate crashes the party. And I love how Nico's like, Dorian? And he's like, first of all, he says, who are you? And he says, I'm just an ex-employee who's come for his back pay, or should I say pay back? And that's when Nico's like, Dorian? And he's like, kill him.
This is so cool. Like how he's like, he sucks up all the bullets after he gets shot, and you hear the sound effects of all the bullets like being sucked through his system into his mouth, and then he just shoots at him and kills him with the bolts out of his mouth. Like, I guess that's it. You can't be killed if you're the Mask, which we'll see Jim Carrey get shot too.
Yeah, that's brilliant. The way, as you say, the way he sucks it in and then spits him back and then just starts laughing and says, I will be your entertainment for the remainder of the evening. And it always kind of crosses my mind. I know he's turned real evil now with the mask on, but it's always like, well, what's his end game here? I mean, is he just going to come in, kill a few people, and then blow the whole bloody Cocobongo club up? Then what's he going to do next?
He's full blown just super villain evil now. He just wants destruction. He's nothing else.
Yeah, well, he must be. And then, of course, Stanley pulls up outside the Cocobongo Club, and Melo's licking the face of Calloway, and he's like, Ipkiss, your dog. And he's like, I'm sorry. He seems to be attracted to you. But I love how he says, here's a radio, phone for backup or whatever it is you do. And he says, Daddy's got to go kick some ass. and I like how Calloway's like, he's a dead man.
And then the dog's able to escape, and that's what he says, smart dog, because he's able to use the handle of the car.
Yeah, the dog escapes and then follows him in. And I love how Stanley sneaks in to the club with, he's got one of the guns, he's got the gun, the policeman's gun, and then he sneaks in and he knocks one of the gangsters out, and they say, now he's got two guns, and he sees Charlie and he's like, whoa, here, Charlie. And he's like, take this gun, start sneaking people out the back. And Charlie's like, looking at like going, what the fuck? Like, you're doing this? And I love how Charlie's dressed like James Bond though.
The white top and everything. One thing about Richard Janney's character, Charlie, in this movie, like, he's so confident, but he's a loser.
Oh yeah. He's so full of himself.
He
Yet
really
he's
thinks
n-
he's like
he-
God's gift to Earth, but he's never gotten anything.
yeah, and he's not all that. Like like every time you see him, he's chatting up a woman, but he's never with a woman. He can't get a woman. He's always trying to chat them up, harmlessly, I would say. But
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He means well. He's overly confident of himself for no reason.
yeah, exactly. He's a wee bit of a dick, but he's a likable dick.
Yeah,
If you
he
can
probably
speak.
feels like he's like Stanley's like a little bit lower than him, so he can like be so confident and cocky around him. Like, I'll show you the way, Stanley, even though he's not that much more ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's almost like it's brilliant. Like he sees Stanley over the gun. He's like, starts taking people out the back. It's like Stanley's finally made it to the Coco Bongo Club, and he's gonna be a hero. So yeah, I say so. This bit here as well, mate, is how Tina then talks Dorian into basically for a kiss for taking the mask off. Like, I don't understand how or why he falls for this.
So this is a line that me and Faith love to bang out all the time. Is there's always time for one last kiss.
That's the way he says it too. There's always time. That's what he does. For one last kiss.
And he's
Yeah,
like,
that-
and then he's smart. He already just knows all the powers. He takes it off, no problem or nothing, and gives her a kiss. And she's
Yeah.
smart, gets the tape out and kicks it out of the way. So
Kicks
that it's
that
in the
thing.
air.
And it's flying like a frisbee through the air. And he's like, get it. And of
Great
course.
camera work here as everyone's hands are trying to grab for it.
Yeah, and then Milo jumps higher than anything and grabs it. And I have to say, this part of the film, not that I can exactly remember it, but this part of this movie for me is such a as Addie says in Christmas Vacation, it's just a real fine surprise. A real fine surprise. When Mado puts that mask on and turns into the mask, I couldn't believe it. That's absolutely brilliant. And I have to say the animation that they do around Mado's face with that mask is absolutely brilliant, and it still holds up to this day.
It's great. I love it. I love the whole thing. It's short lived. It's not very long, but when he gets there and then he's licking Stanley and it's got the big tongue and he's like, this must be some kind of new breed.
Yeah, and it's like he's pulling it away like this, and he's like,
Yeah.
no, he's pulling his head away, and it's licking. You can just see his hair flicking up from the tongue, which is just Jim Carrey going like that. His hair's going all over the place.
Yeah, as a dog lover, I love it that the dog still just absolutely loves Stanley. Like he sees his master and he's like, there he is. Can't wait to see
Yeah,
him.
and when he goes to pull it off, the way the cheeks puff out, like
Yeah.
pulling
But he's
the
still
leg off
kissing
the car.
him. Yeah. But even when the mask is off, he's still kissing him, and then it's time. That's time for us to finish the movie off, and he puts the mask on.
Yeah, well, in between that, we have there's a face-off. There's a fight between Dorian and Stanley, and Stanley gets the better of him.
Ooh, cool camera shot there too, where he actually winds up and punches him in the face, and the camera goes with the back of the machine.
Yeah, I love how Dorian says to him, "I'm going to take you apart." And Stanley says, "Well, I hope you can enjoy your victory, but one friggin' eye." So he ends up knocking him out, and that's when he can get the mask back off Mado, and his goons come in and shoot the mask out of his hand, and it goes over the bar counter, and Stanley runs like the hero he's becoming, and jumps over the bar, and they're shooting, and they think they've got him. There's like a pause, and then the next minute he emerges with the mask on and jumps over the bar, and he's like, "Did you guys miss me?"
And
Takes
then
a drink of the orange. I did see all the orange coming. He's like, "I guess not." But then I love that when he does the Clint Eastwood, which was a signature kind of impression of Jim Carrey's.
Yeah, Clint, he did it. It's very funny, their relationship, because he did an impression of Clint Eastwood, a very famous one. And then his first movie is Deadpool, which is a Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry sequel. So it's very funny. And me personally, I saw this movie first. So for a long time, Jim Carrey did this impression. And every time I hear it, I'll still think of him. You got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Well, do you? Punk, and he shakes his arms into those big giant guns, which is hysterical.
Yeah, and that all comes out bang, 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 bang out of it, and he's like, he puts him away. So he does, and I think that's when he gets up then to sort the bomb out. And
Yeah, he swallows. That's simple, right? That to get the bomb, he can just inhale it.
well, it makes sense, that
he won't die. Yeah.
He won't die though, because he's got the mask on and he's indestructible basically. The only thing is that's the one of dodgy effects in this movie is when he's eating it, And I think it even looked dodgy at the time, to be honest, John. But
It does look a little off, but I mean, you forgive it.
yeah, you could forgive it. He kind of chugs it down, and then his stomach, boom. He's like, "That is one spicy meatball." And then Dorian then comes up with the knife, and I love how he's like, "This guy's incorrigible," and he paints the flush thing, and when he gets in the water, he flushes him down like he's flushing a turd down the toilet. In other words, you're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? This is how I'm going to get rid of you. I'm not sure if there's a darker theme there that he kills him. I don't know. Maybe he's found washed up somewhere.
I thought he was dead. I've always assumed that he's just dead. I don't know how he's dead. Like, because I mean, he got flushed down an imaginary drain, but it's just what I thought.
Well, it's like, and I hate it could be like, he could have went down into the tubes and then he's flushed out somewhere, and then the police found him like kind of lying outside with like all crap and all stuck to him, and just like paper towels, and just he's all soaked and smelly, and they take him off to jail. That's what I kind of imagine.
Yeah, but I do love that we get the movie's not over yet. Like, they're all walking out of the club, and I love that still Calloway still got this hard on for him, even though clearly Stanley saved the day, and the mayor's happy with him and everything. I love it when he's talking to him, and the mayor's like, "I want to see you in my office tomorrow morning." And Doyle's like, "That doesn't sound good." No, it does not.
And he says, "What would sound good to you?" Breakfast. but a couple of days before that, John, I love where Jim Carrey says to her, or turns around and says, how does he say? He says, you were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best. See?"
Said that to somebody at work yesterday.
Did you?
Swear to God, this guy Zach I work with. I mean, if he's watching, hey Zach. But he was cutting chicken, which we both, do at my regular Joe job. I'm a butcher, so he's cutting some chicken, and I'm like, "You're doing good, kid. You're doing real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best." See?
Did he get it?
He laughed. He'd never seen The Mask, but he got it.
Brilliant. I know that's another great line that I love in the way Jim Carrey says it as well. And yeah, as you say, when they go out, I love like Calloway says to the mirror, "Watch it, Chunky." Mayor Tilton, and that's why he says he's like, "Dorian Turrell was the mask. I seen it with my own eyes."
Yeah.
So and that's when Jim Carrey says another one of the funniest lines in the movie is, "Well, it's nothing that any American with balls of steel wouldn't do for the community." And then it cuts to that scene where they're driving down over the bridge, and there's Stanley, Tina, Charlie, and Milo's in the car, and she says, "You sure you want to do this?" And he's like, he says, "Are you sure you want me to do this? Because once this is gone, all you've got's me." And she says, "Yeah," and he throws the mask out into the water. And the next thing he says, you see Charlie diving in, and then you see Milo diving in for the mask.
Milo.
I know. But apparently there was the original ending. Charlie gets the mask, he dives in and gets it, and it tested bad with test audiences. So they reshot the ending that the dog Milo gets the mask.
I like that ending. I like it, honestly, with Milo, because the score kicks in. It's fun again. Like, we're setting everybody home happy.
Yeah, and I like that shot of them on the bridge with the city behind them. And as I mentioned earlier, he kisses Tina and he looks to the sky and he says, "Smoking." So, he's still there. The mask is still there. He's still with him.
It's not with him forever now. He's now that confident, like a hybrid of it. Like, he's not that overly confident one that's making all sexual innuendos trying to bang Tina. He's got that in him, but it's a little toned back now. And now he's not as nervous and shy and socially awkward anymore.
Yeah, and that's a couple that you can kind of think to yourself, you can see them being together for a long, long time. You can see them being together. You can see them getting married and having kids and raising a family. I really could. And as I say, I know this one's went on long, John, but as I say, I'll just finish it up myself by saying that this movie was an absolute phenomenon in the summer of '94. It was a massive blockbuster that year. And, in hindsight, looking back, I still love this movie. Every time I watch it, I've shared this movie with my own daughter. She likes it as well. And if I find the movie very rewatchable. And for me, it's probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie.
It's up there for me. I put it at either the year of '94 is my 3 favorite Jim Carrey movies. I don't know how the rankings always change. I love that summer. I love that year of Jim Carrey in 1994. All those movies are great. They're all different from each other. They're all New Line, and they all feel very, very, very special and unique. This one, I think, is by far his best performance as an actor. It's everything it's all sides of Jim Carrey. You know, you get to see the animated physical acting of Jim Carrey, the emotional side of Jim Carrey, the comedic chops of Jim Carrey. It's just all comes together so well. And a lot of Jim Carrey movies that came out in 1994 got sequels, and this one did too. I don't know if you ever saw Son of the Mask. I saw it once. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
No, because I didn't want it to ruin this.
It doesn't ruin it because it's literally the only thing that crosses over is the physical mask itself, nothing else.
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea. The whole idea was that the series of books was Stanley Ipkiss, I think, died at the end of the first book. So it was other people get the mask, and you can go on other adventures. And I think the idea is that they could have maybe made a franchise of other people getting the mask and doing different storylines. Didn't even have to be in Edge City; it could be somewhere else and doing people getting into different situations. But I think that Jim Carrey was such a big draw at that particular time. People probably wouldn't have accepted a sequel without a minute. And there was rumblings for years of them making a Mask 2 with Jim Carrey. I actually seen it one day on MTV or something, a movie show that says there is talks for a Mask 2, that we thought it was coming and it never did. And I just get the feeling, I never really heard Jim Carrey talk about sequels or doing sequels. I just feel as if it was something that he wasn't interested in. He's never really done a sequel to any of his movies apart from Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, which I think he probably done because he got a hell of a lot of money for it. And then he done a sequel to Dumb and Dumber 20 years later, you know. So I think that he just wasn't. Me personally, I just think he wasn't interested in doing a sequel to The Mask. And if they couldn't get Jim Carrey, then I don't think that the studio was pushing for it until The Son of the Mask came along. I don't know, when was that, like 2004 or something?
I believe it's 04 because I remember I saw it for the first time in 2005, like early 2005. So I remember thinking, my God, this is a joke.
Well, I remember seeing it, and then when I seen he wasn't in it, I felt as if it was just a cheap cash-in, Son of the Mask, you know what I mean? Because they couldn't get Jim Carrey back to do a sequel. 10 years had passed. And then I heard all the terrible reviews about it, and I've never had any desire to watch it because of that.
No, there's no reason to watch it. It's unwatchable, honestly. I watched it once, and I was like, I'll never come back to this, and there's no reason to. The Mask, honestly, is a perfect 90s comedy, action comedy, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the best films of the 1990s. It's one that obviously you and me absolutely love, and I really enjoyed revisiting it and talking with you about it today.
Yeah, I had a great time, mate. I really enjoyed it. We've been done pretty long on this one, and I don't think we've wasted any minutes on this. So I hope everybody else enjoys it. But for me, The Mask is a comedic roller coaster ride. It's a a case for Jim Carrey with brilliant visual effects, a terrific score, fun musical numbers, and a heartwarming story of a good guy down on his luck, going from zero to hero, who gets the girl in the end. That's my feeling on The Mask. And to be honest with you, we're 31 years down the lane, and it doesn't need a sequel. I don't want to see a sequel.
No. We can leave movies alone. And I think this movie, we talked about how the ending is perfect for this movie with him saying smoking. Leave that be the end of Stanley Ipkiss. I don't need to revisit him years later. He lost his confidence and finds the mask again to bring it all back. I don't need that. Leave it alone. Yep. But David, what are we going to be doing next on the Let's Talk Movie podcast?
Well, John, we're going to be going back to our roots and out of this world with Moonraker.
We've actually been talking about James Bond a lot lately, so I think this is the perfect timing with the Sean Connery 6 film collection supposedly coming to 4K Blu-ray. And me and David, believe it or not, the origins of the show are in James Bond, but we haven't done too many ourselves together.
No, we haven't. We done, I think, 3 back to back, the very, very beginning. And then we decided to do another movie. And then we realized that, it would be nice just to explore other movies. And that's how this podcast kind of developed. And look, that's why we love going back every now and again and revisiting a Bond movie. I look forward to the Bond movies when we do them, John.
Yep. And we always like to try and fit them in the springtime, and perfect timing. That's what it'll be.
And I want you to remember, before you watch Moonraker, Cubby Broccoli said when they were making this movie that Star Wars was science fiction. Moonraker is science fact. Okay, so just remember that you're watching a documentary. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I figured we were just like Galaxy Quest. They believe that's a documentary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's that science fiction, science fact.
Science fact. So We will see you guys next time on the Let's Talk Movie podcast. We'll be talking about some science facts in Moonraker. So we'll see you guys around. Hey guys, just popping in at the end of the video for this week's digital code giveaway. And every single video that we do here on the channel on Friday, I ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you have to do is answer one of those in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to Tuesday's video where I'll put your name on a magic wheel. I'll spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice. The digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And we just got done talking about 1994's The Mask starring Jim Carrey, and I'm going to ask you guys, what is your favorite Jim Carrey film of all time, drama or comedy or whatever you guys want to talk about? And what is your favorite 1990s comedy of all time? The Mask happens to be a 1990s comedy, and we also talked this week about Tommy Boy, a fantastic classic 1990s comedy starring Chris Farley and David Spade. So I want to hear from you guys. Leave those answers in the comment section below, and then while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share the video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel, a director for the channel, or even a channel bankroll member like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you guys can look for all of that information in the description below. You know, you don't have to sign up, but there are some really cool perks for anyone who does. If you just become a friend of the channel for 99 cents, you guys will actually have a couple extra videos every single week. At least one extra video where you can watch along with me while we watch Twin Peaks. We're into the 2nd season now, so if you're into that, and every once in a while I'll throw up a new movie review or some review for something I just watched on TV, like this new documentary on Apple TV called Number 1 on the Call Sheet, a 2-part documentary series. I have a review for all the channel members up right now, and it's only 99 cents. But as always, guys, if you don't got any money to throw away, don't worry about it all. The thing that's most important to me is that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.